Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ring Post Radio, the only podcast where if we see our shadow, we have to do 6 more hours of audio. I'm your host, Ryan Knightsey, and with me, as always, is the man, the myth, the legend, Scotty Edwards. Scotty, how are you doing on this fine Sunday morn?
I'm broken. How else am I supposed to react to WWE having to get one thing right? One thing right. And they said, no, it's fine.
What are you talking
It's
about?
fine.
What are you talking about? Charlotte Flair won.
Oh, brother.
Oh, brother.
That couldn't even be remotely close to what I would feel as right. But hey, we're here. I'm here. So let's chat for 2 hours. That's about all I got.
Yeah. I think it's weird because I think it's gonna be like a top heavy show here today. A lot of big WWE news, obviously, and Royal Rumble discussion. And then just like some Japanese wrestling where it's like, yeah, here's some cool matches happening in Japan, and we'll talk about it.
That's pretty much the entire month of February, by the way. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of cool things in Japan, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, February is like kind of this weird month this year because January it feels like January you had all the at the top of the month you had all these Japanese shows having their New Year specials practically. Then you had the Raw Netflix thing. You had Wrestle Dynasty, obviously. You had the Hammerstein Ballroom for GCW. So you had a lot of big things popping off in January, and here in February it's like. There's obviously the Rumble here. We got Grand Slam Australia, which has decreased significantly, and there's not really a whole lot of big news shows in February. March is really where things kick off for us. I feel like with all these tournaments all over the place, but we'll gracefully get us through February with all of our listeners. So we appreciate you. Eternal Pure in the chat. What a dog shit show, huh? Are you talking about Ring Post Radio? Of course, you're right. We'll talk about stuff. We'll talk about things. But yeah, I guess I don't know how to get to it because it's got a heavy, obviously, an important.
Fascinated by how you do this transition.
Yeah, I'm the king. As we all know, I'm the king of transitions, which is my secondary title to the voice of the tasteless. But it's a tough transition today because obviously we have to talk about the news that broke yesterday morning, I guess, right? And that is the Janel Grant amended lawsuit. We're not going to be a podcast that shies away from the news, Scotty. And I don't even know how we're going to discuss it with that and the conjunction of Royal Rumble. And maybe that's part of a discussion that we always kind of have on the show. But I think it's very much important for us to discuss. I think this is a very important lawsuit, especially the amendments added here for this lawsuit, because pretty much all those secret names that we didn't have before, those WWE executive number twos and all these random people are now, WWE superstar are now formally named in the amended lawsuit from Janel Grant as of February 1st. And new evidence has also been added, evidence that I think is really crucial to her case, to their case, I should say. That is one of the reasons why she's arguing not to go to arbitration. So a very important amendment to this lawsuit, and a very important part of it that I think is an important part of this discussion, because it's not just Bad Man Gone, it's not just Vince McMahon, but these amendments also make it exclusively clear a lot of the issues, the trafficking issues of this lawsuit stretch far beyond just one bad man. So I guess we'll talk about it. Did you read through any of the additional amendments that we saw out here, Scotty? Have you seen?
I read like screenshots that people posted, which were a lot of them, to be fair. I didn't read the actual like full amended lawsuit, but I did read the like continuous posts. I think a lot of people did a good job at kind of highlighting the main new points of it. So I read enough of it to understand the changes and alterations and the additions that, like you said, kind of paint a bigger picture, I'd say, in terms of the overall case.
Yeah, so various people put together different like news bits of like what are the important things. I thought the most concise one was from Wrestling Observer newsletter from Brian Rose wrote out here. If you don't mind, I'll read a couple of these. We're very early in the podcast, but so I guess NS not safe for work warning or trigger warning for people as well because. I will. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be really horrendous stuff about to read, but just in case, there might be some trigger warning for some people. But we apologize for that. But again, this is an important part of our WWE discussions that we discussed this lawsuit. So in here, after not being named in the original lawsuit, Brock Lesnar's name is now mentioned multiple times. Again, this goes to that they're sort of officially unveiling all the names. Including a part in the suit where it is alleged McMahon offered a sexual encounter with Grant to Lesnar as part of contract negotiations. Very clear sexual trafficking. That's part of the suit. The suit also alleges that Grant was ordered to send Lesnar sexually explicit content of herself. I do want to pause here real quick. The Brock Lesnar part of it is something that we knew, I believe, the first day of the Janel Grant lawsuit coming out. Obviously, he wasn't named in the lawsuit. But Brock Lesnar was a guy. One of the reasons he's not around is because it was found out. I want to say like Wall Street Journal, unveiled that it was that person that is being mentioned is Brock Lesnar. Here it is, obviously officially. But I'm sort of frustrated, Scotty, about the sheer amount of news headlines. And granted, I'm appreciative of like big time news headlines like ESPN and all these places talking about it. But it feels like a lot of the discussions about specifically Brock Lesnar being named, something we've known for over a year now, right? And before we move on to every other name that gets mentioned and what capacity, the headlines are running with Brock Lesnar, and I fear that Brock Lesnar is turning into another bad man, like AKA sort of a Vince McMahon type, that all the
scapegoat.
Yeah, the scapegoat, the lightning pole, all the stuff go to Brock Lesnar here. And I'm sort of afraid that the news media is just going to focus on him and not focus on anything else.
Yeah, I guess it's because it's the official naming. That's why they're going to do it. The official naming and the situation that he was in part of this. I think that's probably why. Because like you said, yes, we have known it, but when the lawsuit names the name, I guess it obviously takes a little more precedent than just the I think it was Wall Street Journal that says, so I guess that is why it is seeming to be exactly what you're saying, though. It is kind of the scapegoat scenario. We're not going to talk about the others. We're going to talk about Brock because Brock's not around. Brock isn't here, right? So obviously, I think it's important that his name is officially named. But at the same time, for the many talking about this, I do think that other names have to be brought up and discussed and ultimately reviewed when, talking about WWE and this case as a whole. Because I think if you're not doing that, you're kind of missing the point of what I think this lawsuit illustrates, which is, again, and I was going to say this when you're done, but rod to the core.
Yeah.
To the very core of this company.
Yeah. And I understand why Brock Lesnar is a little bit of that lightning rod, right? I mean, an aspect of it is the specifically the sexual explicit content stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But the lawsuit is not just like sexual encounters. This lawsuit is deeming sex trafficking, which other people named in this suit, other people's name revealed, WWE corporate officer number 1 and 2 are now officially named Nick Khan, the CEO, president, CEO, I think, right, of WWE. And I don't know. I don't remember in the shakeup. And Brad Blum, who I believe is no longer with the company. They are officially named as part of the lawsuit as well. So not just Brock Lesnar, a former, possibly still under hire, who the heck knows, wrestler for this company, but the person in charge of the company has been officially named in the suit. And I think the most damning new piece that has come out about Nick Khan and Brad Blum is that there is a new piece of evidence that suggests that when Janel Grant was moved to talent relations, WWE constructed a new custom corner office suite, quote, to Laurinaitis' taste. Again, Laurinaitis being one of the people like Vince McMahon here, who had explicit encounters with Janel Grant, that shared a wall with Triple H, Paul Levesque's office. The office had an internal door that, quote, connected directly into Laurinaitis' office, the suit alleged. Nick Khan, and Brad Blum were allegedly involved with the planning of this office. So you have a situation where the people in charge were involved with the reconstruction of their office structures, one of which included a woman's room having direct doors to another person. I believe corporate officer number 1 was also the person named in the suit as someone who saw Janel Grant in the hallway and said, "I know exactly who you are." So that's noticeable. And also, this is a shared wall with Triple H, Paul Levesque, with John Laurinaitis' office. I assume, I believe the corner office suite. I believe Janel Grant's office is the one that has the shared wall. The wording is a little weird, but
yes,
I believe it's her office that has a shared wall.
That's what I believe it said, yes.
So you have this C-suite conversation of Triple H, Khan, Blum, all these groups of people that are sharing walls right next to, building walls, building doors, to sort of, and seemingly knowing what's happening, allow and sort of arguably turn a blind eye, allow the doors to open for stuff like this to happen.
Yeah,
that's incredibly damning. That is an insane issue. That again, I understand the Brock Lesnar lightning rod, but to me, this is the biggest piece of the new evidence. This is insane to me.
Yeah, I think it's the point that jumped out most to me. I mean, especially like you said, we seemingly knew about Brock, even if he wasn't officially named in the previous lawsuit. Yeah, this is the part I read, and I said, I mean, again, rotten to the core. People said it at the time when the first lawsuit came out that it didn't just end with Vince and Laurinaitis, because, as you noted, there were other people named. It wasn't just these two. They just happened to not be named by name yet, which meant there was a very good chance they were still very much in WWE, and as we know now, they sure are.
I will say, I think it was Post Wrestling that had a bit about 6 months ago or something where they were able to reveal the names, but obviously that I feel like that exploded maybe in the wrestling media space, and that was
nothing more, right? So, it's when you read these lawsuits, and for me, I mean, my mindset towards it hasn't changed. We've talked about this multiple times, and there's a lot of people that need to pay for their actions in this. That's just the way I remain. That's really still my thought process, is like, there needs to be some sort of justice here, and sadly, I have a hard time fully believing it'll ever happen. It's just, that is the reality of it for me, and that's the reality of a corporation like theirs, who are probably gonna say or be able to direct this towards Lesnar and Vince and Laurinaitis and move forward, right? I don't see anything happening to the other people named in this lawsuit. I don't. And it's unfortunate that I have to think that way, because it paints a picture of the problems here at hand, and you just you read these things and you just, like, you're heartbroken for Janel Grant, and you're heartbroken that these things are able to happen, and very few people, if any, face consequences in the end.
Yeah, so much of that, by the way, is just like, it's not just like I don't know.
It's not just a wrestling thing.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it is not a wrestling thing. Things like this happen in the corporate sphere all the time. I mean, fucking a couple years ago, Harvey Weinstein obviously was a big name, right? Miramax. Miramax doesn't exist anymore, right? I believe they went bankrupt, if I'm not mistaken. There are things that are, Harvey Weinstein obviously being the big bad guy of that situation, but it's not just him. There are aspects of people turning a blind eye to these sort of things, and you have the C-suite of people, these people in charge that either are acting on these sort of things or actively allowing for these things to happen, and that's a big issue. And it's not just a wrestling thing. And I get very frustrated when people say that this is a wrestling thing, Scotty, and not necessarily a political tangent, but look who our fucking president is. You know what I mean? Like, people turn a blind eye to these sort of things. And for a large amount, if WWE is able to provide the entertainment that people want, the fulfill whatever need that people want in their spheres, then they don't care. Then people do not care. That goes the same way, sadly, Scotty, to what is happening currently in our country. That as long as what I want happens, I don't care who the person is. It's more of what I want to happen. It's more of a team thing. It's frustrating.
To comment on the wrestling thing, I think people may feel it's a wrestling thing because we know the names, right? Like when it happens in another company or somewhere, not this exact kind of case, but something of this sort, and they name all these names, you don't know them because they work for a company. But when they name a company like WWE, where so many names are very public and so on, it's a little different, right? I think you kind of see it a little different because you're like, oh, I know who that is. I've watched that person and perform, or so on and so forth. And I think it just, I think this is also something that, again, this is not the importance of this conversation, but I will say that wrestling is a platform that many people utilize to get away from their regular life. So when I think something so dangerous and terrible as this happens, it's hard to swallow. It's hard to accept, that this is happening, especially if you are someone who is, WWE is your favorite promotion, and you grew up with it and still love it. Like, you're gonna try to ignore it. That's what people are going to do because they just want to watch WWE as the wrestling show that we watched last night, right? That's all they want from this. And that, unfortunately, is the reality for a lot of people. By the looks of it, 65,000 in the
70 or 65.
I don't know. Well, I like to take 5. I usually like to take 5,000 away from any announced number they have.
Well, no. Did you see the little screen grab from Triple H as he's announcing that? Yeah, we have 70,000 people in the building. A graphic comes up on the screen that says 65,000.
That's awesome. I mean, they probably did have 70,000 in the building.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But
there's at least 60 needed for the Rumble.
I don't think the capacity could go past 65. Like, I think it was set up for 65. So that's whatever. People round up. But that's not really the important part of this conversation.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about, I think, a little bit more of like the reactions of WWE as the year has gone on. But there is more.
I mean, they're putting one of the people named into the Hall of Fame. So
well,
that's their reactions.
That's a good point. They are naming Triple H as part of the Hall of Fame.
And I understand anyone wanted to just like, oh, well, it was it was just sharing a wall. Come on. Like,
you know how thin walls are in these corporate offices? Scotty, have you ever worked in like a sort of like office scape like that before, like an office building like that?
Yeah.
You can hear what happens, just conversations, happening in another room.
Right. You can hear,
you can hear things that are taking place. I'm sure it might be easy to put on headphones and listen to metal music all day, but but I don't think it's something you can live with every day. Eternal Peer on the chat brings up this is more reiteration of the 2022 investigation being a sham, basically.
Oh yes,
there's a little bit of allusion of that in the in the suit
they
as well.
Did comment on that.
Eternal also brings up they also hired Lee Fitting, for Christ's sake, and also still his credits pop up at the end.
Still gets credit every show. Yeah.
Other bits that popped up in here, another big news item that a lot of people saw was that there was a new text message in or about September 22 that had McMahon allegedly texting Grant to create customized pornographic content for producer Michael Hayes and his crew. That's the first time we see Michael Hayes in the suit and the only time we see him in the suit, but all of a sudden he gets named. So he gets added to a person that potentially seen photos or videos of Janel Grant with a long list of other people. There's a video on our YouTube channel that has me going into this more detail about how many different contacts, how many different people that have potentially seen photos or videos of Janel Grant, and going through a little bit of that timeline of 2022 and 2023. So good video if you want to check up that sort of timeline, the sort of context with her. The other big thing that is part of the suit that is a big discussion point for the court side of this is Janel Grant and their lawyer have made it sort of clear that they want this to go to court. I think we would all love to see this go to court and be reminded that this isn't just Vince McMahon, but we would see John Laurinaitis in the courtroom. We would see presumably Nick Khan in the courtroom as well as representative for WWE. I don't know if it'll just be a WWE lawyer or something. I don't know, but obviously WWE still being part of this lawsuit. But a big part of this is that they would like to potentially go to court, right? And WWE and Vince McMahon obviously are arguing for that this needs to go into arbitration per the agreements of the NDA that Janel Grant signed in what was this, February? January. No, February. February of 2022. No, January of 2022. My apologies. January 2022, where Janel Grant signed an NDA. Per these NDA agreements that she signed, supposedly that if there's any sort of lawsuit that comes out of it, it has to go straight into arbitration. Janel Grant, this entire time, is arguing that no, this shouldn't go in arbitration because I wrote this NDA, I signed this NDA under duress. This is the big part of the lawsuit that is going to come down to the courts, because if there is an aspect of this NDA where Janel Grant feels like, and the courts agree with her, the judges agree with her, that she was signing this NDA under duress, under stress, under threats of any kind, then you can throw out the NDA, and which means you can throw out the arbitration clause. If the judge disagrees with Janel Grant's claim that she was writing this under duress, then arbitration we go, and we'll never truly find out what the ramifications of this are. There'll be some sort of money thing that happens, and that's pretty much it. So that's kind of where we're at. We do get more details. The suit now has a transcript of a voice message, so presumably that would be evidence if we get to a courtroom of Vince McMahon leaving for Janel Grant, repeatedly asking her to sign the NDA, and at one point saying, quote, "We need to work on this really fast, really fucking fast, otherwise I'm double fucked." According to the suit, Grant agreeing to the NDA was entered, quote, under duress and/or as a result of fraudulent inductment engaged in by McMahon, and the same is void as a matter of law. So again, more evidence to claim from Janel Grant's side of, no, I wrote this, I signed this under duress. It was signed by Vince McMahon, who was the person part of the NDA, and then he also signed as a representative of WWE, which is crazy, by the way, that is any sort of legal thing that Vince McMahon can sign being the person that this is involved with and as a representative of the company. That's fucking crazy. But the big thing here is, right, we don't know where this is going to go to. How is the judge going to determine this NDA? Is it lawful? Does it stand up in court? And if so, we're going to arbitration. Does it not? Was Janel Grant signing this under duress, under stress? I think there's solid enough evidence to suggest it. And if that's the case, then we're more likely going to court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't have anything to add. Again, it's a situation where people just have to keep and when I say people, I mean people around wrestling need to keep emphasizing on it and bringing it up, especially when new things come forward, because this should not be let go so easily by people, which unfortunately it kind of has over the past year, right? It was a year ago now, essentially, just over a year ago when the initial lawsuit had come out. And here we are with the amended lawsuit. I have said this many times as we've brought this up. You just hope that some sort of justice is served in the end of it all. But again, it's hard to have that confidence, but you have to have that hope. That's kind of the way I look at it. And it's just every time something new comes out, you're just a little more hurt and heartbroken that these things are happening.
Yeah.
And something like this happened. It's like every time I read something new from this, I just am like in legitimate shock that this one could happen, one has happened.
This allegedly did happen.
Allegedly, right? Like it's haunting. It really is. Like it's
hard to even say like allegedly, because there is also like a paper trail, right? There is like funds. There's like SEC has like determined that there was funds exchanged, right? It's these sort of things of like there is a paper trail. It's hard to say allegedly. The only alleged thing is the amount of depravity of the actions involved, right? And how much the sex trafficking aspect of it, how much that extends out. That's the alleged part of this. Something did happen between Vince McMahon and Janel Grant. It's just a matter of how bad it was and how much of it was trafficking.
Yeah.
And that's awful. And that shouldn't be taking place. And I think to move into the next part of this conversation, Scotty, is that a year has gone by and WWE is making as much money as it ever has.
Mm-hmm.
The Royal Rumble was the third largest gate in WWE history. The previous or the number one and number two are WrestleMania last year, which of course took place after the Janel Grant lawsuit immediately happened. It is frustrating because it feels unstoppable how hot WWE is currently.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating as someone that has empathy for Janel Grant in this sort of situation. It is frustrating to see this company succeed so well and grow so much. There's so many like news bits that have come out of the Royal Rumble that we'll obviously talk about in a moment. But there's so many different like news things. They're everywhere now. They're on streaming. They're on cable. They're on broadcast.
They're on everything.
They're on fast, free ad-supported streaming television.
You gotta stop too fast. You just gotta explain what it is.
They're on fucking radio. They're everywhere
they are.
now. They are at concerts. They are at festivals. They are
bigger than ever.
Paul Heyman literally put out a quote saying that they're driving pop culture. I don't think they're driving pop culture.
Yeah,
but they are embedded themselves in pop culture. They have Travis Scott as one of their theme songs. They have Charlie XCX, a song from Brat, as one of the Rumble theme songs. They are finding a way to be hip and cool and distracting enough to just ignore all of this, to the point where the day this amended lawsuit happens, not a single question is asked to Triple H, who shared a wall with her.
Mm-hmm.
He shared a wall with Janel Grant, and no one wants to ask about this.
Yeah, I mean, this is the version of WWE we live with now, right? This is the monster that is WWE. It's as popular as ever. It earns as much money as ever. Mm-hmm. And I don't want, because this happened last year, but I don't want to say this, but these lawsuits or the amended lawsuit, the original lawsuit happening at this time makes, if this lawsuit happens during the summer or something, compared to WrestleMania season where everyone's going to overlook it. That's what feels like is happening. It's a reality. I don't want to just be like, oh, because it's WrestleMania, but it's what's happening. It happened the week of the Rumble last year.
Yeah.
And here we are again. And the Rumble is going to be what's talked about. The surprises and the spoilers. That's what people are going to report on. And like you said, this year, bigger than last year. You have all these.
They report on it and then they get dunked on by commentary, but
that's also true. That's also true. But like you said, this is a company that has all the biggest names showing up. You may not know who they are. I know this because I've had multiple people ask me, who is iShowSpeed, who is Kai Cenat. People don't. Not everyone knows this, but a lot of people do. These are some of the most famous people right now, right? And they're at these shows.
I think I saw a post that Speed had 10 million people watching his stream last night.
There you go.
I wonder if I can look up. I'm gonna see if I can look up the thing real quick.
Yeah, it's insane, and it feels like every show now they're like, oh, here's Matthew McConaughey. Oh, here's who was in the crowd yesterday?
John Mellencamp.
That one popped me. I don't know if anyone's seen The Office, but there's this. Never mind. I'm not gonna make the joke. This is too serious. All right, I'm gonna say it. Kevin Mullen said he'd make a lot of money if John Mellencamp ever won an Oscar. That's what he bet on. And I always remember that from John Mellencamp. But this is the WWE now, right? This is right in the midst of WrestleMania season, Royal Rumble season, and because of how big this company is, how popular this company is right now, that is going to overtake anything. And it's a shame that is, again, the reality. Like you said, there's a chance to, at a public forum, ask him about such things, and it doesn't happen. And maybe the worst part in terms of the wrestling show for me last night is that you knew going into that no one was going to say anything, right? Unless a handful of people that are going to get that microphone and get given the chance to say something is going to happen. You don't see it happening, right? That it still feels like they handpick the people they're going to have ask questions of certain people, right? But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's very hard to find the iShowSpeed Rumble stream because there's also a streamer called Rumble. That's very difficult. Very difficult to find.
Is it on Twitch?
I couldn't find it on Twitch. I don't know. I couldn't find it anywhere. I'm still looking to see if I can find this fucking thing.
iShowSpeed.
Oh, it might have been a YouTube stream, or maybe or not necessarily a YouTube stream. Okay, I think maybe. I found the stream. It was an hour long, by the way. According to YouTube, and again, this might have been also streamed on various other sites. I do not know. But at the IRL stream at WWE Royal Rumble video on YouTube currently sits at 3.1 million viewers.
Dear God. And that's just on there?
And that's just on YouTube. Jeez. Again, I don't know if...
Right.
And the video includes... Oh, right before he goes out, you know who he was talking to? Stephanie McMahon. And then he goes out to do the Rumble spot. Yeah, it's just frustrating. It's sort of frustrating that the more popular it gets, the easier it is for these things to ignore it. And I do think it's a little bit of a PR move, quote unquote, for Janel Grant and her lawyer to have this come out on the Rumble date, right? I think as sort of a news press item. But the Rumble news was so distracting that it this was a talking point in some circles, but it felt like the Rumble just got too distracting for a lot of people. And the fact that, it's always plausible that, at these pressers that people are vetting questions, right? It's totally plausible. There are people that have at the press conference that are able to ask questions, like Brandon Thurston, say that he never felt like his questions got vetted or anything by anybody. But he also wasn't there. Sean Ross Sapp wasn't there. You have all these other like wrestling media people that aren't there, and the people are there aren't asking the questions. Either they're more, it's more like a marquee.
They're reacting to AJ Francis showing up in reality of wrestling.
Yeah, they're talking about more marquee questions, fan questions, or sadly they are, newspapers for like local Indianapolis, and they have to ask about Indianapolis stuff, which sucks because I understand their beat and they have to hit their beat, but at the same time, there's bigger news surrounding this company. It's just very frustrating, and there is an aspect of me that is frustrated with how we talk about WWE. Not like I'm not like mad about how we talk about WWE or anything else. I think we do a good job of talking about WWE, and I think we do a good job of trying to cover these sort of amended lawsuits and everything, Scotty. It's just sort of frustrating because it is like this sort of thing. There is backlash out there, not from us or towards us, but there's backlash of people being like, seeing this news and be like, you shouldn't be watching it. Like, it is morally, ethically wrong to engage in WWE after all of this. And I think that's completely fair for people to say. And I think that I feel like talking about WWE is, as a wrestling podcast that talks about everything in the world, it's important for us to talk about WWE and the lawsuit in conjunction. But it's also like there is a sort of ethical, moral quandary that I feel of like discussing and watching the product, because and giving praise on sort of these sort of things. It's the sort of issue of like, it's hard because it's like, it's not necessarily art separating from the artist, right? Because it's more than that. Like, it's not, oh, I can watch the Cosby Show even though I know Bill Cosby's a horrendous person. It's not that. It's also not like I can watch a movie and support the directors and the cast of a movie produced by Miramax, right? It's not even that. It's like the company that runs and books and produces and presents all aspects of this product are this. The only people I can truly support are the wrestlers, I guess. And sadly, they have to do storylines every once in a while that somehow seemingly relate to this lawsuit. And they're just doing what they're told. It's a job for them. It feels like the only people I can support are the wrestlers themselves. And it's just a tough. How do you separate? How do you should I? The ethical quandary of right now, should I separate any of this? And I think we shouldn't. I think that's why it's important for me to bring up this lawsuit as we talk about the Royal Rumble and not ignore it. I feel like we have to talk about the Rumble. I feel like we have to talk about the wrestling and all these sort of things and the output of the performances of these wrestlers. But it is a difficult, like, ethical quandary I have.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are meant to put a product together. We're meant to put a content out for people to hopefully enjoy and make a good show and have a good show, an informative, funny, interesting show for listeners to enjoy. But I have this issue of like, how do we discuss WWE? Because I don't know how to, and I don't think we should separate all of this from what this company is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what we do, as in just us two, won't change much, but at the very
we're not going
to
change minds.
But at the very least, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
We can do the right thing and not ignore it. And I think that's a very important part of it. We are not, one of the many one of the wrestling podcasts that get thousands of live viewers in a second, and I don't know what those shows did. I didn't listen. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't listen, so I don't know if they talked about it. But I'm sure a lot of them didn't. right? I'm sure if a lot of them just jumped into the Rumble last night and celebrated the wins of the people that won and dissected the road to WrestleMania and moved
which
on
of
with their
course
day.
we're going to do, right?
We're
Like
going to do, because that is the show. But we still spent 40 minutes talking about something that is far more important than a wrestling show at the end of the day.
Yeah, as someone that like works in the film industry and works in television and movies and stuff, right? As someone that like is a part of this, it is I think the business of filmmaking is just as important as the conversation of the entertainment, right? The conversation reviewing movies and whatnot. Um, I work in an industry that is currently butting up against the creation of AI, and that is an interesting conversation, interesting topic. At the same time as like Oscar nominations are happening, and now we're discussing the artists, the makers of great films. Like it's important to do both. I think to a certain extent, I get doing one versus the other, right? But I want to talk about all of it because I think all of it is important.
Sure.
Especially when it's something like this, especially when it's something
Mhm.
like this sort of lawsuit that is relevant to what is happening. And I think,
Yeah.
as I sort of stated earlier, it's relevant to not just wrestling, but it's relevant to a
Yeah.
larger portion of how we as people view those in power and corporations and presidencies. I think it's like a larger issue of it is people feel it is okay to ignore because I'm okay just being entertained right now. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of the conversation as well.
One thing I am fascinated by, is how people who, consider WWE like their number one promotion, number one thing in wrestling, hell, maybe the only thing in wrestling. I like to see how they are treating this on their podcast, because I am sure many of them are ignoring it. Not all of them. Not all of them. I'm not going to discredit
Yeah.
anyone, because again, I don't know for sure. But that interests me because, WWE is not either of our number one things. It's not
No.
even number two. Hell, it's not number three, right? Like, but we talk about it. We're here to talk about, because this is a wrestling podcast, and
They
it's
are
the
they
biggest
are sadly
company
the number one wrestling promotion in the world.
by a substantial margin at this stage.
Yeah.
Um, so like that's the thing. Like that's one thing I wonder, but that's just me now talking and going off on a
Yeah.
little side thing.
This now
But
turns into a wrestling media discussion.
right, which
Hey, guess what? I got a lot of big thoughts too.
that's a discussion I don't think I can get myself to have right now.
Yeah,
after the past month, I'm good. I'm good for now.
I was about to say something that I don't know.
No, just if you don't know, don't say it.
Yeah, I guess not.
There's no answers on the ceiling. I don't know what you're looking for.
I have a bunch of Post-it notes on the ceiling, just ready, and one will fall down with a funny joke. That'd be a great bit. Yeah, I think it's all tough, and I think it's important, and I think it's important. I think it's important for me, Scotty, to be transparent with our listeners, the people that are viewing us right now or listening to us after the fact, that like how I currently feel about this company and how I, feel the importance of discussing this. Not to necessarily speak for you, but I think you are in sort of the same boat of like, this sucks to talk about.
Yeah,
it is difficult for me to come onto this podcast and talk about sexual trafficking. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in laws. And I hate reading about all this stuff because I don't want this to be the world that we live in. But the sad reality, Scotty, is this is the world we live in. Things like this happen all the time. This isn't a this this is I was going to make another joke, but I'm not going to do that one. It is something that happens every day, and this is right now something that is relevant in our beat. This is our beat. We're just like those newspaper writers asking questions to Triple H about when are they coming back to Indianapolis. Our beat is discussing wrestling around the world. This amended lawsuit is our beat, and it is important for us to discuss. But the sad reality is discussing the Royal Rumble is also our beat. So we want to provide that to you, but I want to make it transparent to everybody of how I feel about it. So so always know that in the background. Always know that. Know it in the background. Whenever we discuss WWE, this is how I feel about this.
Now let's talk about WWE, the Royal Rumble.
This is how we transition. Yeah, very very nice comments in the thing. Eternal Pure, great friend of the pod. You guys do more than you guys do more than the most wrestling media. So cheers to you. Very kind.
Right. It says we're not a serious podcast. How dare you?
Yeah, we like to have fun. I think our show is like very funny. Like I think I get a lot of laughs. I was listening to something recently because you need to write down your number for the Royal Rumble predictions, and so I had to go back and listen. I was like scrubbing through our show to find that moment, and I'm just like texting you. I was like, our show is funny. Like I really enjoy the amount of dumb bits and laughs that we have. That I think we can be serious when we want to be serious, but I also think we can have brevity and funny jokes and dumb bits when we want to be fun and dumb and light. So I enjoy our show greatly, but alas, our show must go on.
I hope other people do too.
I hope other people do too. I agree with that. I agree with that as well. Because at the very least, I enjoy it. All right, let's talk about the Royal Rumble. Let's keep. I don't want to say push all that aside. I say let's keep all of that amended lawsuit in our brains. We are just now also going to talk about something else. I don't want to push it aside. It's important to keep it there. But let's talk about the Royal Rumble. Obviously, it took place last night in the Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. The reported attendance was 70,347. However, like I said, let me see if I can find what the exact number here was. There was a bit where Triple H announces that attendance, and at the same time, they have a Royal Rumble record graphic that pops up that says 65,470. So great. just a great all-time bit for Triple H and WWE to overtly potentially lie about their attendance being inflated, which is something all wrestling companies do, and then immediately do that, and then want to be like, yeah, 70,000. Anyways, overall, there's a lot of, I think, discussion about the Rumbles, the matches themselves, 4-match Rumbles here, a 4-match show here. Overall, what did you think of the show? What did you think of the presentation of Royal Rumble in Indianapolis last night?
I like the scoreboard, the little ticker. I like that a lot. I think that was a nice addition. It didn't have to be as thick as it was. This was a random thing. I was like, why is there an extra bar at the bottom?
I was going to say the same thing. There was like an extra bar there.
I was like, why is this here? That was my one complaint about it, because otherwise I liked it. I was like, this is good. Like, this makes sense.
It felt like that extra bar was kind of like our banner on our video podcast, where it was supposed to have like a scroll going across. Not a scrolling text going across. It felt like it was supposed to have that the entire time. And then they just didn't do it. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that was like my one complaint about it, because otherwise I thought it was a great addition, made for like a nice like sports feel to the Rumble itself, and I probably helps a lot of people that kind of jump in every year to just watch the Rumble, honestly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good.
A great visual thing that also takes a massive load off the announcers, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to like constantly be on top of these things, because visually,
this person's been in here the longest. Yeah.
Yeah. Visually, you'll be able to see it. They'll pop it up on the graphics.
Right.
I think that was actually a legitimately smart move, and I commend that. Commend the production team on that.
It was a very good addition. The rest of the show, I mean, listen.
Ups and downs
for sure. I think this might be a hot take, but I do actually think like the Rumble matches themselves did the job of what the Rumble's supposed to do in terms of surprises and exciting moments, like
potentially even elevating stars.
Right, like the men's Rumble, for example. Every time anyone ever faced off with Jacob Fatu, it was a moment. Like, that was a hilarious bit that just kept happening, and the crowd lost their minds every time. Also, like
Penta had that a little bit up until Nakamura tried.
Yeah. And listen, for me, the Punk Roman Cena face off, like that was everything, you know.
Yeah.
Little did I know that was the peak of the show. There's no uphill from there.
The peak of the show was no wrestling
Yeah.
happening in the ring and just 4 guys entering, or 3 guys entering the Rumble.
Yeah, like there was a lot of moments in the men's one which I expected with a few surprises. I've watched I Show Speed get speared no less than 20 times. I have watched this clip in various versions, and every single time I watch it, I am in awe of how much Braun Breaker destroyed this man. Braun Breaker doesn't hit wrestlers that hard with that damn spear, except for Roman last night. He launched himself into Roman. And then the Women's Rumble had all the surprises you wanted, except for Becky Lynch, who continues to not exist, which is interesting.
Where the fuck is Becky Lynch at this point? Genuinely. I don't know.
I know. Great question.
Genuinely, where she is. She was supposed to apparently show up on the debut show of Netflix. Didn't do that.
Wasn't.
Well, yeah, she was supposed to. Then she wasn't. Right, and it was always the Undertaker or whatever. But she's in the advertising, right, for Raw and Netflix. She was part of like the announcement.
She's signed. Like there's a deal signed.
She didn't show up at the Rumble. Now it's becoming a question legitimately for me of like, where the fuck is Becky Lynch?
The Rumble thing, I will say, I had this like thought during, and I was like, it'd be kind of shocking to have her come back at the same time Charlotte comes back. Like, I just feel like they wouldn't be willing to do that, and then they weren't. Nikki Bella came back though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Big pop. Alexa Bliss came back too.
One of the best bits, by the way, from the Rumble is them cutting to whatever that advertisement was of like, oh yeah, there's an exclusive VIP club that has like this like POV shot, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a couch, and then like Michael Cole saying like, and they were so excited and they're celebratory for Nikki Bella making her return to the Rumble, and you just see the audience like golf clapping, and then the woman in the foreground just like shaking her head no. It's just like so funny to be like reacting of Nikki Bella coming out and to be like, and people being disappointed. Which again, where is Becky Lynch? That was the disappointment.
I know. That's who I was sitting there for. I mean, a lot of people weren't actually disappointed with Nikki in the building. Like she got the big pop when her music hit. So like,
yes.
But for myself, for yourself, you have to say Becky Lynch, and then also the one that people convinced themselves was happening, even though it never was, which was AJ Lee. That probably didn't help either.
Those people are always delusional.
I can't stress enough. Like it's just not going to happen. Like I understand CM Punk walked back in the door. That doesn't mean she is. Like she's fine, whatever. But since we're on the Women's Rumble, we'll just talk about the Women's Rumble. I also got to see Julia and Io face off for a second, so that was pretty cool. One of the things I realized, so like the Women's Rumble had Io Star and so on and so forth, and like they had all these different people come out. And I was like, as the wrestlers filled up through 30, I was like, man, they have a lot of talent. And then I said to myself, why do the women's divisions stink? I was like, they have all these wrestlers that are great. And I was like, well, Jordan Grace just came in. Roxanne Perez and Julia and Stephanie Vaquer, they're all on NXT. Okay, now it's starting to make sense. All the people I was most excited for are not on TV. So that's probably why.
Which the men's, by the way, didn't have a single NXT wrestler in it. If you noticed that.
No, we did not whoop that trick like I was hoping. I was very upset.
Yeah.
That was kind of the one I was hoping for. I wanted to see that reaction, so I was a little bummed there. But the Women's Rumble, I thought, suffered the usual, oh, we know who's winning.
Yeah.
It suffered greatly from that. Because
I think especially when Nikki Bella came out and it wasn't Becky Lynch or anything, it was like, okay, it's very obvious.
It's like, right. And I also don't think I don't think it's different if had Cena won, because Cena's moment is like that is his story now.
Yeah.
For Charlotte, it's like, oh, she fucking won again. Great. Like she what else is new, man? Which is funny saying that about John Cena. You know, if you were a fan of John Cena a decade ago, that's a little different. But now it's like, all right, whatever. The big stories for me though, in the end, were shout out to Roxanne Perez. They put her over big in this Rumble. She might have been, besides Jey Uso, the main person that got over through a Rumble. She was number 3 in, was in the longest ever now for a women's Rumble.
But I don't think that was on purpose. I do want to point out.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it was supposed to be Io Sky, and then they fucked up.
It might have been. It might have been. Well, she was in there for like an hour.
Yeah, just all 3 of them were in there for an hour. Io Sky was an hour, 6 minutes and 45. Liv Morgan was hour, 7 minutes exact. Roxanne was an hour, 7 minutes, 47.
Yeah, I think all those people were supposed to be eliminated at that time. It's just not the way it happened.
Yes.
But yeah, Roxanne ended up being final 2 as well, which was pretty crazy. So good for her. A big moment to get her over. And then yeah, Charlotte wins. So whatever.
Yeah.
I don't have interest in Charlotte versus Tiffany Stratton. I'm sorry.
I don't. Well, I think a big part of it, I don't care for Charlotte Flair.
She's my least favorite of the 4 horsewomen and has been
since
the entire time.
Yeah, I was like basically the beginning.
Essentially since they started.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, and we had a big conversation about Tiffany Stratton basically like replacing Charlotte Flair like 2 years ago. I feel like of being like, I don't understand what the point of Charlotte Flair in this company anymore is if Tiffany.
You said that. I did not say that. I did not say that.
Well, we have audio. We got audio. But still, like the idea of like what is the purpose of Charlotte Flair in this company with Tiffany right there? Because it just feels like everything.
That is the purpose of Charlotte Flair at this stage, just to win,
to get championships and battle John Cena and her dad. Yeah, it is weird. It is sort of frustrating in that sense of Charlotte Flair always returning and then winning and getting these spots. And I don't know how it's going to be moving forward. Granted, I'll also say this: there's also Rhea Ripley, and that would also be an interesting, cool match because they had a great match. But I also doubt it'll be Rhea Ripley. But that, on the table, that's interesting. To that point, bringing up that Rhea Ripley a couple years ago had a great match with Charlotte Flair. It's also totally possible for Charlotte Flair to have a great match with Tiffany Stratton, right? I mean,
I don't rule that out at all. I don't know what Charlotte is now because you can't judge it off a Rumble. Does she look solid in said Rumble? Yes. But I need to see her have a full match before you can judge. And like the other problem for me is like she's beating Tiffany. So it's like,
yeah, it feels like that, doesn't it?
It's like, how do I fully care if she's just going to beat Tiffany Stratton, which she's very obviously going to beat Tiffany Stratton. But if they have a great match, it's a big moment for Tiffany. It's a big moment for Charlotte, I guess. I mean, Charlotte's had every moment under the sun. I don't know how many more big moments she necessarily cares for. But listen, her being back is a big deal.
Yeah,
it's a big deal for her. It's a big deal for WWE. She was gone for a very long time.
Yep.
Which is, I guess it's fresh, but again, when you walk right back in and you win again, couldn't even get that for John Cena, who's retiring. But for Charlotte Flair,
darn,
you got it. But it is what it is. There wasn't another obvious winner. Io or Bianca would have been really cool.
Yep.
Obviously, I would have loved Io to win, but I just never could convince myself they'd do that. So,
yeah.
And once she came in at number 1, I was like, oh, well, that was a good run.
Yeah. Obviously, we got other returns in this Rumble. We have, aforementioned return of Nikki Bella. Will she stick around? We'll see. I could see it potentially sticking around. I wouldn't be shocked by there. Trish Stratus, I guess I'll chalk that up to a return as well. A nice little surprise potential return as well. She's in her 25th year as well in wrestling. Not necessarily a retirement tour, but notable.
She's definitely back for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I feel like WrestleMania season, that's always plausible.
Nikki said she's back too.
Yeah, it feels like Nikki is
video.
also back as well. We also have the return, of course, of Alexa Bliss making her long way to return. That caused a lot of
big pop,
massive pop for Alexa Bliss.
I was stunned, actually. I was like, oh, I wasn't familiar with your game.
Do you have any comments about the use of using her return as a way to dunk on the dirt sheets?
It worked.
I know.
So, like, what do you want me to say?
It worked for them. It worked. What can I say?
It worked. I don't want to be that guy as someone who's like, I guess technically media, but like, if you can do it, you do it. Like, it's like it created a moment.
Yeah.
And
I don't blame them for doing it, and I think the wrestling media is susceptible to shit like that constantly. So
we're at a time in wrestling where so much gets leaked. So why not leak something to make shit seem like someone's not coming back?
You mentioned like last week in our preview that like it's weird how there isn't that much that gets like leaked or talked about the Rumbles. And the one thing that did was this whole Alexa Bliss contract negotiations. That in the future, Scotty, is going to be a constant tip off to me of now you should just ignore any news surrounding the Rumble because it might be purposeful leaks from WWE to then cause a surprise at the Rumble. But obviously Alexa Bliss has returned. We'll see what she goes with her. Natalia also technically made her return after, I believe, a wrist injury.
What?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Natalia made her return in this
Rumble. This is a return?
Yeah, no one talked about it. Let me make sure that I'm not crazy. I don't think she's wrestled in quite a while. Her last match was in January 27th. I guess she's been around for a while. Why have I not seen her?
TV. Maybe just not on TV because she's Natalia.
Oh yeah, not on TV. I thought she was injured this entire time. She was on Main Event wrestling Ivy Nile and Isla Dawn, and she was on the Speed shows. She hasn't been on Raw since the IC title tournament, I guess, in December, but I didn't even pay attention to that. Yeah, I thought she was legitimately injured this entire time. That's crazy. Anyways, so she's there. Jordynne Grace obviously makes her debut for WWE proper, ignores her grandmother's birthday and decides to show up in WWE. We had NXT participants, Roxanne Perez, Lash Legend, Jada Parker, Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, all showing up in this Rumble. I think that's a pretty good standout crop of NXTers in here.
Big pop for the Vaquer Julia combo. Big pop
for out of you.
Yeah, big pop, massive pop. I was like, I have stressed this many times, and I have to stress it again because she teamed with Bayley on NXT this week. I still have not accepted Julia is in WWE. My brain just can't put it together. So the fact she's one teaming with Bayley and two now facing Bayley in NXT and now in the Royal Rumble, it's surreal. So real. Shout out to Stephanie Vaquer as well. That's what you like to see. That's what you like to see. So
yeah, good stuff in here. Obviously a lot of the Rumbles have sort of turned very much into surprise oriented matches, right? Sort of Royal Rumbles are just basically tribal combat battle royals. I think Scotty left. They're basically just tribal combat battle royals where it's like a battle royal and then it's all about the surprise. So I think an interesting aspect to talk about is the if anything, what sort of maybe stories popped out of the Rumble moving forward. If there's anything to derive from that. I think one that was very obvious for me was the tag team of Bianca Belair and Naomi throughout the entire Rumble. Never once did they turn on each other. They were constantly doing double team moves to various wrestlers throughout the match. The only sort of like issue story point wise, not issue, but like story point that came up was Naomi and Jordynne Grace hugging out and Bianca Belair taking issue with that and getting Naomi back to focus. That I think was an interesting story to tell. There was the PFC, Pure Fusion Collective, whatever they're called, that running rampant in the Rumble, quote unquote. I felt like they
was
were
a decision.
Barely did anything, and then all the faces took them down. I was like, these people are over. Shayna Baszler, Sonya Deville, and Zoe Stark. None of them are over yet, and I don't see them as a menacing threat in this Rumble in any capacity. I was supposed to believe it. For everybody, all the faces to turn on them and beat them up and take them out of the Rumble at the same time, but didn't really feel like that way at all. But is there any other stories that popped up in this Rumble that you feel like can move us into WrestleMania season?
No. Roxanne overall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like this was her unofficial, official bringing her to the main roster in a big way and establishing her now
in her third Rumble.
But like she is someone they are very much clearly behind, which is good. You want to see them behind the new people, even on the same day Charlotte Flair wins her second Royal Rumble and goes for world title number 15. That again, that's what you I think need to see and want to see. So I thought that was a good little thing. Not too much else.
Feels like feels like they should do something with Nia Jax, right? Like I don't see anything at the WrestleMania for her to do other than maybe like a Lyra Valkyria match.
Sure, yeah. If she's I would have her definitely probably challenge there.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, is a Queen of the Ring rematch.
Yes, you are correct. That was the final.
All right, I'm gonna pin that right there.
Lyra Valkyria is not that good.
She's fine.
That is a scorching hot take I've learned because people love her, but like I'd recommend she was in the bottom half of the most talented in yesterday's Women's Rumble.
I would say middle to bottom half is probably accurate.
There was a lot of talent in that ring, so that's not really a bad thing on her, but like I don't think she is the standout that like others are in this company. So, but hey, good for her. She has a title.
Yeah, they're behind her.
I'm guessing Becky's facing her, by the way. That's like I think where they're going. But Becky isn't around, so I can't act like I know anything until she is.
Well, like, yeah, Becky's not around, and that's the thing. Nia Jax is someone that they're obviously pushing, so maybe like Lyra Valkyria makes sense there. I mean, maybe Becky Lynch, Chelsea Green also makes sense. I don't know. Like, that feels wonky, and that's also a SmackDown thing, right? So that feels weird. But Nia Jax getting, I believe, the most eliminations in this Rumble at 9.
You're damn right.
It feels like they should be doing something next with her. It's just a matter of what is that. Jordan Grace, I didn't feel got as much shine in this Rumble as I thought. She was in here for 22 minutes, 41 seconds, eliminated one person, and that was Jada Parker from NXT. And then got eliminated by Julia.
She had the cool the Piper Niven moment, which was pretty crazy, and that was about it.
Yeah, that was kind of it.
Which interesting. That was it. I think there was a potential for a lot more, but at the same time,
her interacting with NXT people exclusively, like Jada Parker and Julia,
that was interesting.
Does make me sort of concerned about maybe the reports of her possibly going to the main roster aren't true because she just interacted with NXT people basically.
We'll see.
And low level.
That's like an ultimate people. Like we'll see because like I don't know. She's better than NXT.
The only other thing I can make maybe of note is that if they want to do a tag title match at WrestleMania, it feels like Bianca Belair and Naomi versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez seems totally plausible because you also saw the tag team dynamics of Morgan and Rodriguez pop up in the Rumble here. And I think that's a sexier WrestleMania match than them versus the Pure Fusion Collective. So I guess we'll see if it'll be some sort of multi-man fest there. Overall, I don't know. I think it was a fine Rumble. I think Rumbles at this point in time, are the surprises good? Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, Nikki Bella was fine. Trish Stratus, I think, was a surprise, actually, genuinely to me.
Well, yeah, Bliss, NXT folks, Jordan Grace, Nikki
But
Bella.
I'll say the lack of Becky Lynch is a negative, but there's more positives there.
Yeah. I mean, I always thought the Women's Rumble was the one for surprises, and they had a lot of them. So
yeah,
a lot of them got big reactions.
Did they elevate stars? That's another part of the Rumble. To a certain extent, I think maybe Roxanne Perez.
That's it.
Booking wise.
That's it. Roxanne.
Yeah. Other than that, Lash Legend looked good, and obviously,
and the upstart. By the way, the upstart Charlotte Flair.
Yes. Yeah. The rookie, the green rookie Charlotte Flair.
The rookie who is now going by the woman of WWE.
Great. Yeah, Jordan Grace didn't feel like they elevated her really in any way. I think year over year is kind of a down. What was she last year? Hold on. How did she do last year? Let's see. Jordan Grace, 19 minutes, eliminated nobody, eliminated by Bianca Belair. So I guess technically she had a better year in this Royal Rumble, but basically the same. So I don't think that's a great look for her. Now being officially part of the roster. Yeah, I think like solid Rumble, I guess. I don't necessarily, there's not a whole lot of things a couple hours later that I truly remember. A couple of moments here and there, but I think a solid enough Rumble for what we got. But let's talk about the predictions that we had. Obviously, last week we went through our predictions, which the deciding result of which is going to be the loser is going to have to watch a WWE Studios produced movie. We'll get to that when we get to all of the predictions. But right now, we'll start with tabulating our women's Royal Rumble predictions. So, Scotty, let's go through it. I said first two was Valkyria and Lynch. Who did you say?
I said Io and Bailey. So that's one.
That's 1 point for you. Obviously, of course, it was Io Sky and Liv Morgan were the first two. Longest, I said Chelsea Green. Who did you say?
I think Io.
And that was Roxanne Perez, but I felt like Io Sky was meant to be that person. So
I was feeling good, man. I was feeling good. I was like, here we go. Another point. No, didn't happen.
Most eliminations, I said Jordan Grace. Who did you say, Scotty?
I said Nia Jax.
Nia Jax wins with 9 because she had a big a pile of people all getting eliminated that she just came in and threw all of them out. And so they gave all of those eliminations to Nia Jax. So another point to Scotty. 30. I said Bianca Belair. Who did you say, Scotty?
Becky Lynch.
And of course, it was Nikki Bella. Someone we all immediately.
I felt really good about Becky Lynch too when 30 was counted down, and then
look, but you can't touch. Final four. I said Bailey, Grace, Belair, and Charlotte Flair. Who did you say?
Charlotte, Becky, Bianca Belair, and Io. I got one whole point from that.
Yes, I also got 1 point because the final four was Charlotte Flair, Roxanne Perez, Nia Jax, and Nikki Bella.
As we all drew it up. Folks.
Bailey 5th from eliminated from the last. So close, so very close for me. For Bailey getting in there.
So what, I get 5 points?
And of course, the winner was Charlotte Flair. What was your random number, by the way? Mine was 12. 21. What was yours?
21.
Mine was 12, which was Bailey. I felt pretty good about
Alexa
that.
Bliss.
You had Alexa Bliss, which maybe. I mean,
Alexa
Bliss versus Rhea Ripley is interesting. I think.
Alexa Bliss about like 6 years ago.
Yeah,
would have been a great shot.
Yeah, that's true. So in total, I got 3 points. My winner with Charlotte Flair having 2, and then Charlotte Flair being in the final 4. That's 3 points for me from the Women's Royal Rumble. Scotty, how many points did you get from the Women's Royal Rumble? Correct.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait. Yes. 5
points. 5-3 going into the men's. We'll see what happens in the men's. But before we get there, let's talk about the rest of the show, which had the 2 out of 3 falls match for the WWE Tag Team Championship. DIY defended their title successfully, getting 2 falls out of 3 against the team of Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, the Motor City Machine Guns. Scotty, a very interesting match. I thought it was high work rate, high level of psychology, but it was a match that the crowd was simply uninterested in. Not a single soul cared. The first fall, no one paid attention to because it got like not even like a fall pop. The second fall, like people also weren't paying attention to. I thought the crowd was so uninterested in what this match was, despite this match being really good. I thought really well put together. But what did you think of the match, and why do you think it sort of fell apart in front of the crowd?
And ultimately, it was flat in the end. Like, I thought the work between the first two falls was strong, and then the last fall I actually strongly disliked. Like, it angered me. Because in the end, you get the run in which you expect, and listen, the run ins just piss me off. I'm so done with them. I'm so done with them. So like this ultimately well, I thought the work was good. It ended up being my least favorite match of the night because of all the factors that hurt it. The crowd couldn't care. Bad third fall with the finish being what it was, and kind of confusing.
Finish, of course, being the Street Profits come out and attack.
It ultimately hit the low. It hit the low level of, oh, this is where this could go if the crowd doesn't care, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it was frustrating because I made a comment on Blue Sky that in front of like a New Japan crowd, I think this match would have been like seen as like a great match. A crowd that would have maybe more appreciated the wrestling that was being done here. And to a certain extent, I think it's tough, right? Is that I think I enjoyed them having a really great wrestling match in the first two falls, and a match that then gets WWE-fied in the finish with outside interference from the Street Profits. That's its own issue, but like it's something that like in AEW and New Japan especially, it would have been received way more. And here in WWE, the crowd does not care, especially a crowd, Scotty. And I think you said this in Slack, that is here for the Royal Rumble, which is basically to me at this point in time, like sugary, like popping a bunch of sugary candy into your gullet, right? Like they're here to see surprises. They're here to count down from 10. They're here to do all that stuff. Giving them a proper wrestling match with great psychology was way too much. It was like if I received a steak dinner at Halloween. Yeah, I would enjoy a steak dinner at Halloween. However, Halloween is for candy, and I would like candy, please. That I think I think that's the big issue here, is that it didn't work. And then it's like if you had a steak dinner and then the last bite you took, someone came out of nowhere and hit you in the back of the head with a crutch. Like that is basically what it felt like. I couldn't fully enjoy the experience because it's not what the audience came here for. I think if this happened on SmackDown, this would have gone over better, legitimately. I think the match did have maybe little issues. I think it's just the wrong venue ultimately for this sort of match. I think maybe if they slowed down on the psychology, the crowd would have gotten more into it. They were doing a lot of quick, fast tag team action, which is great. This was a nice little junior affair. But I think the psychology was confusing the crowd too much. It was too fast for the crowd. If you let the psychology breathe, the heel tag team shenanigans breathe a little bit more, maybe you could have gotten a little bit more of the crowd. But alas, I think this was just mostly the wrong venue for this type of match. And I tend to agree, Scotty. I think of the four, this might have been the weakest on the card.
Yep. It ended up like when it was all said and done, I was like, that was kind of a bummer of a match. Like even like when the work is solid or whatever, it doesn't matter if no one gives a shit.
Exactly.
And then when you have a fuck finish, it's like, all right, get out of my face. It's like, get out of my way.
Yeah, I was watching this match and I was wondering to myself, am I watching Collision? That's my joke of the day. A well-worked match to no crowd reaction.
Collision, hey, Dynamite would have worked either way.
That's the Ryan joke of the day.
This is where I'm at. I saw people posting stuff about Dynamite because Collision was on last night. I did not.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
that
I would've
rating
just
is
canceled
going to
that one,
be
folks.
abysmal.
Like, I would have just not done that one, folks. Yeah, but like, I saw the thing. I was like, holy shit! I never watched Dynamite this week, and you just go, you don't have to.
Yeah. No, well, it's also like knowing you, Scotty, and how you feel about wrestling AEW right now. Yeah, don't.
Right.
You're not going to want to watch it.
Better to just.
But it's a skippable one. It's a skippable one for
We'll
sure.
see you next week, folks.
Yeah,
I'm not leaving the show.
but yeah, it's an upsetting match. That again,
It wasn't very.
I thought it was well done.
You're
It was
right.
just like this, not here. All right, moving on. In a sort of different way, the WWE title match for the Universal title, ladder match here. Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens, 25 minutes, 22 seconds. Cody Rhodes retains. This match for me was so plotting and boring for half, I guess, most of the match. It was like, come on, guys, this is a blood feud. Let's do some shit. And then all of a sudden, you get 3 bumps back to back to back of insanity. That then ends with a power. I think it was like technically Alabama Slam. Shout out Hardcore Holly.
Cody's first tag team partner.
That
major pop by me.
Just that Kevin Owens gave a Mick Foley-esque bump to, landed on his neck and rolled onto his head. This man's dead. To again, of course, Cody Rhodes get the win. I thought this match, like I said, very slow and boring to start. And too slow and boring to start. Even though it started with a brawl, hot finish of a brawl.
It just didn't fit the match.
It didn't work at all. And then we got into great shit, and that's when the match picked up significantly. For me, what do you think of this?
They took nasty spots.
Yeah, that fisherman buster or whatever it was onto the ladder. Great.
Tale of two matches, but they kind of win you in the end, where it's like, okay, we're gonna give you the crazy bumps. I remember saying going into this match, I was like, Kevin Owens is gonna like kill himself. Like that's what he's gonna do. And boy, was I right. That spot was terrifying. Like it was very clearly he was fine, but he obviously rolls onto his head like when it ultimately hits the ground. It's like, an Alabama Slam though. Shouts out. It's a ladder match, so it's like, ladder matches aren't what they used to be.
Well, the problem is, Scotty, is that it's a ladder match, which means I want to see tables.
They did a good job of not bringing out tables. I'll give them that. They didn't ever bring out a table.
The crowd wanted them.
The tables. Always.
You would think
that's a TLC match.
The crowd, with the amount of ladder matches that WWE puts on, you would think that they would stop doing ladder matches to maybe preserve that gimmick a little bit.
TLC.
Or just do table matches. Just do table matches. That's what people want to see. I know they're not good, but apparently you want to see tables.
You go through a table, you lose. Like that's stupid. I mean, I have
TLC match actually would have made sense. TLC
Cody wins. Kevin Owens losing, obviously heartbreaking. Expected, but heartbreaking. I am interested in how where Cody now goes, right? Because he's now waiting. Jey Uso's not facing it.
Well, Jey Uso's already announced he's going after Gunther.
Officially? Because I know he brought up both in the presser, but he was I know I can beat Gunther, and I was like, okay, so you're picking Gunther, great.
I don't know if it was officially, but heavily leaned to the idea of him.
Okay, well, he's not facing Cody in the main event of WrestleMania. I could put money on that one and be very confident it's not happening because anything with Jey Uso is not a main event unless it's a tag team title match.
Jey Uso going for that late stage Hall of Fame run. I think what's interesting is going forward and where's Cody move forward. That last look of him standing over Owens and all these sort of things, just a weird image. I thought a very sort of Healy image that I was kind of surprised by. In the announcing commentary team sort of treating it like, oh, well, this is a real situation. Kevin could be hurt. He's bleeding. He landed on his head. He could be hurt. And then you just have Cody valiantly celebrating over Kevin Owens' body. It just felt, it was a very weird image to then draw here. So that is interesting. We'll see if that was on what happens there. We'll talk more, I think, about Cody when it comes to the Rumble in a second, Scotty. But where does Kevin go here? I think is a more interesting part, especially with the Sami Zayn kind of involvement here.
That's where he's going.
Yeah, I sort of think Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn is a WrestleMania match.
They love that shit, so of course it is.
Which
I mean, I'm not against it. I'm
not against it by any
Give them
means.
15 minutes on one of the nights. They're gonna have a hell of a match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that seems to be the direction. That
Yeah,
seems to be the very obvious direction.
I think the idea of Kevin being despondent about losing and sort of maybe also somehow blaming it on Sammy, and
kind of like you were right there and you just watched.
Yeah, you didn't help me. You didn't take out Cody. I'm your friend.
Yeah. Shout out to some color, by the way. Shout out to Kevin Owens. Busted open. That's real.
Mm-hmm.
Not the
Bully
stupid
Ray.
show.
Shout out Mark Henry.
Say it. Moving on.
Moving on. Other bits I want to talk about just real quickly is that I think at some point around here is where we got the announcement for WWE Evolve, which is coming down the pipeline.
On Tubi.
On Tubi. Airing Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Wednesday
finally some wrestling on Wednesday nights
are back officially. Again, this goes to my point earlier that WWE is officially everywhere. They are now on Tubi, which is a free streaming service.
Who are you more likely to watch? Jack Cartwheel versus I don't know, another one, Cappuccino Jones, or Will Ospreay versus mystery opponent. Things to think about.
We'll find out. So there's many interesting aspects about this. One, it's Tubi, right? It is
to be or not to be. Sorry,
that is the question. Tubi already has wrestling content on here, by the way. Dark Side of the Ring is on here. There is classic all-star wrestling. There is Wrestling with Reality. There is the John Cena Legendary movie. No Holds Barred is on here. So there's other stuff like that. There's old 70s big time wrestling, Mid-American Goulash wrestling. There's documentaries, there's actual wrestling footage on here. And now they're going to bring WWE Evolve on here. Wednesday Night Wars are back. They are now doing the sub brand of NXT against AEW. I'm interested to see how that comes about in the future dynamics here. There's also the Tubi aspect here, Scotty, which I think is interesting. One, let's recall, Tubi was the streaming service that was originally looking at getting MLW many moons ago that seemingly, allegedly, Stephanie McMahon got involved with and put that to a halt, which then led to MLW suing WWE over monopolization. That's what that was all about. It was about Tubi. And if we also recall, Scotty, AEW at one point in time, maybe, was having deep conversations with Fox about having their product on Fox on a Fox platform. That platform was Tubi. So,
Tubi or not to be. Sorry.
AEW, MLW unable to make the deal. WWE able to make the deal with the Fox-owned Tubi service to get WWE Evolved on Tubi. What are your thoughts about all of this, business-wise and television-wise, with the Wednesday Night Wars stuff, with WWE Evolve, the Gabe Lepolsky run show on Tubi?
It won't take a lot from AEW, but if it takes 1,000 for them to win, it's like that's the way they're treating this. It's not going to take much of anything. Like no one's going to go out of their way to watch this, I'm sure, but it's something. And for WWE, it is more content. They now have shows on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday every single week. Oh, and Sunday when the LFG show starts.
Oh, yeah. They're everywhere.
They're on every channel. There's so much wrestling content just by this company alone. I will watch a show or two I will see what they're trying to present, because I would be doing this whole podcasting thing incorrectly if I didn't do that. But it's something. It's something. Who would have thought Evolve would have got a deal before MLW? Am I right? Or am I right? Yeah. I mean, it's weird seeing Evolve come back. I thought Lucha Blog had the best tweet. He's like, can't wait to make sure I don't watch Evolve all over again. I was like, that was a good one. Yeah, I mean, it's cool for the young wrestlers who are seemingly going to get their chance on this. Shout out to the Real Deal Zeta Steel, presuming she's one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know any of the others. Timothy Thatcher.
You said Cappuccino Jones.
Timothy Thatcher is going to be the ace of Evolve again. Again.
Who could have guessed it?
Yeah, Cappuccino Jones. I think that's his name.
Yeah.
Jack Cartwheel.
Marcus Mathers.
Sean Legacy. He was actually in the ad.
Yeah.
He was in the ad. I saw him. Noah's Own. All right, move on.
Yeah, Tubi has a lot of like collections of various wrestlers, like Best of Tommy Rich, Kurt Hennig, from his like AWA days, Best
weird.
of Bruiser Brody. They have like Portland wrestling and Memphis wrestling over here. They have like those indie documentaries about MJF and Joey Janela and El Generico on here. Like they have like a weird amount of wrestling here. They have 1960s Buffalo wrestling, Buffalo, New York wrestling. They have 1987 Memphis on here. Like they have like a weird amount. A CZW is on here. They have a weird amount of 1950s wrestling is on here. They have a weird amount of stuff on
Ryan's
here.
gonna find himself doing a Tubi series.
Well, I will.
Wrestling.
If I want to watch anything, Tubi, it's free. It's free, so I could.
Tubi or not Tubi? Who's gonna be the first person to do a WWE Evolve podcast? Not us. God willing, not us. But someone's gonna do it.
Pete Rosenberg. So yeah, it's very interesting to me about this announcement regarding Tubi. All right, I've said that word too much. But yeah, let's get to men's rumbles, please.
Men's Rumble. Done with the show.
Men's Rumble, of course, 30-man Royal Rumble, with the winner being Jey Uso, coming down to Jey Uso and John Cena, and also guess Logan Paul.
No yeet.
Yeah, so let's talk about okay, we got to talk about Jey Uso.
No yeet.
Oh, he's officially no yeet, folks. What? Okay. There's
get
so
this
much...
man off of my screen. I'm gonna jump through my own screen to fight you. Keep him on my screen.
There's a lot to discuss here, and I think there's
and the most important point is that they brought Omos home from Noah and didn't put him in the fucking Rumble.
Totally agree. I was legitimately upset about that.
Shout out to my good friend Dylan for reminding me this morning, so that I can be pissed off that they ruined something good in Noah just for him to do nothing.
Legitimately upset about that. I was upset about almost not being in the Rumble. But alas, we can't have too many good things. So the winner discussion is the big one coming out of here. John Cena not winning the Royal Rumble, not officially achieving his dreams. Instead, Jey Uso, Mr. Yeet himself, gets the win. Seemingly in the presser, we get the announcement that it looks like Jey Uso will be going after Gunther for his title, and that John Cena will be entering the Elimination Chamber to get his second chance. So let's get your reaction, and then we'll go through talking about Jey Uso winning. What does that mean? And then John Cena not winning. What does that mean? But what's that reaction?
In the moment, I was fucking pissed. Okay, plain and simple, no doubt about it. I was not happy.
Just in the moment, not right now at all.
I literally shut it off. Like you were talking about, like they said main event so many times. It's like I wouldn't know. I shut the damn show off. I didn't care. I was mad. And then okay, so then the press conference happens, right? And yes, I am diving into the stuff of like, oh, we'll look at Cena and Uso. I don't give a shit about Uso. We'll look into Cena. Cena cuts the promo of the year saying, listen, it's best for business if I win number 17. I was like, you're damn right it is, John. You're damn right it is. It's a good story. Yes. It really is. It's a simple yet good story. He failed. He came up he was this close and failed. So now he has to go into the chamber, and now he has to win that to get his shot at number 7. It's a story that makes sense because it would have been too easy for him to just win. That being said, that's fine. But why did it have to be Jey Uso? That's my problem.
Jey Uso instead is a very interesting call.
If it was like CM Punk or fucking anyone,
name a great Gunther match that I could have seen. Let's see.
Right.
Let's go down the list. Rey Mysterio, that would have been fun. Penta, that would have been great. Chad Gable, very interesting as well. We'll skip Hayes. We'll skip Santos Escobar. We'll skip Otis. Braun Breaker, that would have been fun. Speed. That'd be interesting. I would like to see the bumps he takes on that match.
Yeah, I've learned that this is the best bumper in the business.
Yeah, Sheamus, legitimately, that would be great. Big Jim, no. Andrade, no. Jacob Fatu, yeah, baby, let's go.
I mean, Andrade versus Gunther would be great, but yeah, good, not happening.
Kaiser, no. Miz, no. Joe Hendry, get the fuck out of here. Roman Reigns, obviously. Drew McIntyre, obviously. Finn Balor, no. Nakamura, no.
Since you're going through all of them,
the return of AJ Styles, that would have worked too.
That would have worked. AJ versus Gunther, big match.
Yeah, that moves me.
Yeah.
There's so many other people, but we want Jey Uso. Why do we go with Jey Uso?
Because he's so popular, and I have to accept this. I said this to you before the show. This is like if when I was a fan, when I was really a fan of WWE, and the person I really liked actually would have won instead of the hand-picked person. That's what this was.
If Zack Ryder or Dolph Ziggler,
if Dolph Ziggler at the peak of his popularity won, that's what this is, I think. But I mean, Jey Uso is way more popular than Ziggler. But when Ziggler had like the pink shirt and stuff, that was when he was really popular. It would be like if he won, right? And ultimately, they didn't, but Jey Uso did. Jey Uso's going to main event WrestleMania. He's not going to main event WrestleMania.
He's going to.
Money. I will put money on him not. No, I don't care what they said. They say a lot of shit. Okay, this company says a lot of bullshit. They say the women's Rumble winner every year is going to main event. They haven't main evented in years, buddy. Okay,
that's actually a good point. I think they did say the women's Royal Rumble winner is going to main event.
Yeah.
Oh,
because they haven't.
Well, they also start doing double main events like of the night. These are the co-main events.
So exactly. There you go. It's going to be second to last or something, and they're going to say the first main event of the night. That's what they're going to say, because there is no way Jey Uso and Gunther are ending one show. I do like the idea, though, that the two main events of WrestleMania are Gunther versus Jey Uso and Tiffany Stratton versus Charlotte Flair. Yeah, that's really believable. Yeah, I didn't watch the Rumble and see John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth, like all these things actually happen. That
does seem to imply that Rhea Ripley and Cody Rhodes are not in the main event of WrestleMania this year.
Yeah. If there's going to be a women's main event, it's gonna be whatever Rhea's doing. Okay, right?
Well, Charlotte is a tough call there, but
sure, but they didn't put Rhea and Charlotte in the main event.
Yes,
and that was bigger than whatever they run for Charlotte this year. And then on the flip side, we're gonna have John Cena versus Cody Rhodes second to the top. That's fine. They'll just do that. Then Gunther versus Jey. It's just they can say main event all they want. I don't believe them. I will not believe them. The moment that John Cena fell to the floor, I first of all said, "What the fuck?" The second thing I said was, "This guy's not main eventing. Why did I even watch the show? This was stupid." And then, you have the realization. Okay, they're telling a good story with John. John cuts a great promo. He's like, "Listen, I got to do this," and it was great, legitimately great. It was like John, in a way, it feels like how you make John serious again was the failure here, the last second failure. I think that's interesting. But again, as I said to you, Ryan, why Jey Uso?
Far hasn't answered in the chat. The worst singles match in Mania in the last 15 years and wins the Rumble is insane.
That's true. You make a great point. He went from yeet versus no yeet to the main event of WrestleMania. I mean, he's not going to main event, but to the main event of WrestleMania. Well, hold on. No. This is actually how it went. The year before that, he went from the main event of WrestleMania to the worst match at WrestleMania to the back to the main event. What a swing for the Yeet Man.
What frustrates me is that over the past year, I feel like they sort of told the story of Jey Uso kind of is a loser to a certain degree. Obviously, there's that IC title run.
I watched him lose last week.
Yeah, there's this IC title run where he wins the match, but it like loses the title pretty quickly, right? If we recall, and then like loses all his title matches for IC title or the world title all these different times with Priest or
Daniel
Gunther.
Bryan.
Yeah, they're
doing with Jey Uso.
Yeah, I fear that could be the case. The problem is that Daniel Bryan's story was also like a little bit of a focus.
Oh.
And also Bryan didn't win the Rumble, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Batista.
But I'm just saying, like
but the focus here isn't on Jey Uso, it's on John Cena, right? That's the bigger thing.
Right. That is the funny thing. I forgot Jey Uso won in some ways. Because
like people saying that this is another Yes Mania situation, Yeet Mania. It's like no. It is fully not. It is fully not that, because the focus is not on Jey Uso winning, in my opinion. No, I think a story of a guy sort of being presented as a loser when it comes to title matches, suddenly getting the ultimate shot and getting the main event slot at WrestleMania to face Gunther again. And at this point, probably beating Gunther for that title is a bad story. I think that kind of sucks.
He's lost 100 times to this guy.
Yeah. Why? But now I'm supposed to believe it because it's the main event of WrestleMania and he's main event Jay?
But to oppose what you're saying, people thought Chad Gable was going to do the same.
Yeah.
Exact same. It almost feels like they know they messed that up, and they're like, okay, we're going to go with the guy that everyone wants to now do this with Gunther.
Now there is also no guarantee.
Literally the same thing from last year with Gunther.
Yep.
Whatever. Who cares?
Now there is no guarantee, obviously, that Jey Uso could win. But it's still,
come on.
It feels like he's gonna win.
You don't run this match a week before and then have him win the Rumble saying, I'm gonna beat Gunther, and then he doesn't beat Gunther.
That's what I would book.
I wouldn't book Jey Uso to win the Rumble.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the other end. I think the bigger story is John Cena not winning. And obviously to a lesser degree, Roman or Punk or anything like that. Roman, Punk, or anything. John Cena not winning here. And now you have the story of John Cena going for the Elimination Chamber. Scotty, it feels like John Cena is going to win the Elimination Chamber.
He fucking better. If he doesn't, I'm going to lose my mind.
I think, and this is coming from me, Scotty. I've been pitching this idea since WrestleMania last year. We should maybe consider Cena not challenging Cody at WrestleMania.
It's not, but he is. He's going to. It's the biggest match.
And can I explain my explanation?
Fine.
I also think John Cena is a fucking story nerd and an actor, and he likes he will like the dark night of the soul of not getting the WrestleMania title match against Cody, right? I think there's something to John Cena is in his demented brain that likes a story like that. And I think there are other options there you could do. You could do Roman again. You could have Punk in there. Punk versus Cody would obviously be interesting. I think it's that. I'll also throw this out to you, Scotty. This is the first year we're getting 2-night SummerSlam. They don't have to do the title match at WrestleMania. I think it makes more sense to do it at WrestleMania. But there's also an element that the match just being billed as John Cena's last WrestleMania is still of importance. It doesn't necessarily have to be the title match. The title match is almost a cherry on top, right? SummerSlam is the first 2-night SummerSlam. John Cena might be challenging there instead. I think that's a reality we have to face halfway through it. Not the beginning of his last year, but halfway through his year, he finally is able to get that match. And maybe he also loses it. We also have to experience that. I disagree with all of these points, but Scotty, I think this is a real possibility. They need to sell 2 SummerSlams. They can do that with John Cena title match.
He's going to be there.
Agreed.
This is the thing with WWE crowds. They need to sell them. They're going to. You know it. I know it.
Agreed.
I can't.
Scotty, they played their hand when they had Jey Uso win.
They sure did.
It doesn't matter.
You make a great point. Yeah, I can't get myself to sit here and not think they just have him not in the world title matches this stage. Because he has to be. It's his final WrestleMania. Nothing else has meaning besides John Cena. When you look at the WrestleMania lineup, it's John Cena, then everyone else. Right? Because one, it's John Cena. Two, it's his last. This is it. He's never wrestling at WrestleMania again. Period. End of story. He can fail and then win it at SummerSlam. I think that's a story to tell.
Agreed.
He can lose at WrestleMania, though you might be turning Cody heel if you're doing that, which would be fascinating. And, we could be going down that range anyways after what Punk said, after holding the title for so long, things become difficult to go dark. He kind of went dark against Kevin. So maybe it's a hint of where we might go. I don't know. I doubt it because Cody probably doesn't want to turn heel. But
a heel Cody versus babyface John Cena also sounds like a great match. It
does. It's worth noting. It is worth noting here as well, right? When it comes to WrestleMania and the lineup and how everyone's talked about it for once Rock was out, it's been like it's going to be Cena and Cody, Punk and Roman, and then Gunther will face someone. Right? It was like maybe Seth, maybe all these maybes. Well, they've decided that it's Jey.
Yeah.
So to me, the plans that everyone expected have not changed. It feels like everything else is set. Maybe they add Seth to Roman and Punk, but they shouldn't. They should do something else with him.
I feel like that's turning to like a 4-way with McIntyre in there as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like I don't know what they're doing.
You can almost throw Sammy and Kevin in there as well.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's very connected. Very connected, which is interesting. But no, I need John Cena to be in the main event. He's correct. It is best. He needs to be in the main event. He needs to win number 17. He's going to win number 17. You know why he's going to win number 17? Because he has to. Okay? I say so. That's why. This is one WWE thing I give a shit about. This is it.
What's also best for business is how there's money in the chase.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'll give up my third, I think, talking point about John Cena not being at WrestleMania challenging for the title. Scotty, if we're talking about losers, speaking of Jey Uso, if we're talking about losers, a big part of this story with John Cena is how he hasn't won a match in forever, right? He is presenting himself as a loser. If he doesn't win the Rumble and doesn't win the Chamber and doesn't have the title match at WrestleMania, we can continue the story of John Cena is a loser. Because then at WrestleMania, Scotty, he could win a random ass match. Let's say, I don't know, a lumberjack match against Evil. I don't know, just pitching names. He could get the story turns around for him by just winning a match. That match could be against some guy at WrestleMania. I agree with you. I would much rather see John Cena.
You know who some guy would be?
Yeah, of course.
Logan Paul.
Joe Hendry.
It would be Logan Paul. That would be the some guy.
It would be the 3-minute man, Joe Hendry.
He lasted 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes and 35
seconds. Roman dumped him, right?
Yeah.
When he went face to face with Roman, I was like, Roman, you put him into the dirt, buddy. You show who the real
you don't deserve to touch Roman Reigns.
I said to you, I didn't want him to be in the ring with Cena. And when I saw him in the ring with Roman, I was like, no, you don't get to be in there with him either.
But yeah, I think the big
pop though.
The big story they're telling of John Cena is that he is a loser and he is trying. And I think John Cena will be more interested in a guy failing. At least at the very start. We got to get to the Dark Night of the Soul and everything.
Well, him failing by losing a title match is possible.
That could be SummerSlam. I'm just leaving the door open.
Well, that's why I'm saying he loses the title match at Mania and then has to build himself back up again. It's a fascinating thing. But that's the thing with Cena this year. they have whatever story they want to tell because everyone's going to be into it. So they win.
Yes.
Right?
That money is in the chase. The money is in the chase. It doesn't matter what they do. So he doesn't have to be at WrestleMania. Right. He can just have a random singles match.
Also true. And what they displayed also, I thought, on this show was Cena slowly getting back to being super. Right? That was kind of the whole thing. It's like, oh, he's doing it again. The first time, then he ultimately came up short. So I think it is a fascinating story that I am interested in. I'm upset about it, but I am interested in it. So that's a win. On the other side of this, again, Jay fucking Uso won. So, like, who gives a shit? No yeet. No yeet. Big Jim should have won.
I think a big part of this as well is that John Cena should have, one of the big reasons why he failed is because he didn't do his lightning punch. His sixth move of doom, his lightning punch, as we all remember.
Good point. You make a great point.
Great point.
We also have to remember, though, the Elimination Chamber is in a baseball field.
Good point.
Stadium.
So
and who is the main event of that? John Cena.
Big Jim. Who do you fill up with that chamber? It feels like Cena, Punk, Roman.
There's no way Roman's working it. There's no way.
Why not? He worked the Rumble.
Because he's Roman.
He worked the Rumble at what? 15?
He worked 16.
16? Joe Hendry.
My number.
Joe Hendry and then Roman Reigns.
The dream.
Yeah. I think it's those three. This is what I would think. Cena, Punk, Roman, Seth, and then maybe
man.
yeah, what is it? It's 6 guys, right?
6, yeah.
And then maybe like
McIntyre, who stormed out last night, supposedly.
I kind of think that's story.
He always storms out.
And then
third time.
Yeah, he has a story of him constantly storming out all these places.
No, that elimination was funky.
Yeah, the 6th one, I kind of think like Sammy or Kevin, but I actually don't think it's that. I'm going to go with, if you have Cena, Punk, Rollins, Roman, and McIntyre, I'm going to go with Damian Priest as our 6th pick. Oh, bro.
God, that guy.
The guy overpushed a little bit in this company.
There's not a person that comes on my screen more. I'm like, ugh.
But he shouldn't really be involved. But he is a SmackDown guy going after a SmackDown title, and he has been feuded with Drew McIntyre before. He eliminated Drew McIntyre. Damian Priest almost makes sense in that point. Kevin Owens also makes sense because there's a Kevin Owens Punk promo segment from SmackDown, but I kind of think that was all red herring a little bit just to have a great promo segment. Yeah. I actually didn't think it was a great promo segment, but alas. I think almost Priest makes sense, especially if we're going with Sammy and Kevin at WrestleMania.
Sure.
But again, I'm shitty at predictions, so we'll find out.
Yeah, you are. Other things from throughout the Rumble. Now that we get off the Cena part, like I said, the Punk Cena thing that meant something to me, man. That was a moment. I was like, shit, they got me. And then Seth came out. I was like, all right, fuck, man, you don't belong with these 3. Like, plain and simple, you are not here. You are down here.
I will say though, it is inspired booking to have Cena, Punk, Rollins, obviously Roman in there as well, followed up by Dominic. Like, that's great.
Yeah,
like that's a great piece of business.
I was really hoping though. I wish Dominic was in Seth's spot. I thought that would have been hilarious. Right? These 3 are like waiting to see who it is. Just Dominic.
That's actually very good. That would be very good as well.
I also think that the Punk, Rollins, Roman stuff is fascinating. I think we're seeing Rollins become a heel in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they're doing. Is he's just so obsessed that he's going insane now. He's fighting Punk. He's fighting Roman, 2 of the most beloved wrestlers in the company, and he's stomping Roman's face in. Like, that is a level. I mean, Roman and Seth is the match that they have oddly protected beyond the 1 DQ match in Roman's reign.
Yeah,
they just don't touch it. It's fascinating. Maybe it's because Roman wants nothing to do with it, but seems like he wants to do with it now because they keep going back to it. So we'll see. But I thought that was very well done. Those 3, right? You have Punk dump Roman, which we kind of thought would happen, and then he gets dumped by Logan Paul, land on his tailbone. Ouch. But it's about those 3 in the end, and I thought that was a good story to tell there. But also the realization of the final 3 kicked in at that point, and I was like, what? Jey Uso, Logan Paul, and John Cena, and the person you expected to win lost.
Yeah.
At least Logan Paul didn't win. I guess that's the positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
That he didn't win the Rumble. But yeah, I don't have anything else. Joe Hendry.
Penta, his 2 feet touching the floor almost immediately. That was a good.
Yeah,
bit.
they definitely hit the floor, by the way.
Yeah.
100%.
Jacob Fought 2, I thought looked great here.
Yeah. Oh, Braun Breaker. Shouts out to the big man. This guy was built for this moment. We don't want to bring up his name, but when Redacted would come into the Rumble and like shit would go down, that's what Braun Breaker spots are now. He launched himself into Roman on that spear. Like, that was great, but I show speed. God damn. Like I said, I've watched this so many times. There's just so many different clips of that poor kid. Man, what is he? I don't even know what he is.
He can be both, technically.
I know. How old is I show speed? Okay,
20.
yeah. Okay, so he is younger than me, so I guess I kid. Okay. I was like, I don't know how old he is. 2 great bumps. Shout out to him. 2 great bumps. That spear, I was like, I feel like Braun Breaker just killed him. So that was great. Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker face to face for 2 seconds moved me tremendously before they ruined it.
A lot of people staring at each other more than wrestling, in my opinion.
And it worked every time except for Shinsuke and Penta.
So many people call this one of the best Rumbles, and it was just like, for me, it's like a lot of staring and teasing of matches that I was like, all right.
It was a good Rumble unlike the last 4 years.
I think it's the best Rumble under the past couple of under like the new with the Women's Royal Rumble edition. Like, since that 2019 era started, this feels like one of the better Rumbles. I don't know. I actually like the
2020 Men's Rumble seen as like the best one.
I like the 2020 a lot more. What I liked about the 2021 is that
it was a story throughout.
Throughout, 2 halves, but it also felt to a certain extent a little random.
Sure.
They
had good surprises too.
My big issue with the men's Rumble here, and I don't really feel that way of the women's. I think the women's did a good job of separating it all. My big issue with the men's Rumble here is this did not feel random in any capacity. You had Rey Mysterio and Penta to start, and then a guy that does not like luchadors, Chad Gable. Then you have Carmelo Hayes, whatever. But then you have Santos Escobar, another luchador, right? Then you have the big boys of Otis and Braun Breaker and Sheamus. You have Roman, and then McIntyre comes out. The sheer odds of, if we're going with the kayfabe of people pulling their numbers, of Cena, then Punk, then Rollins all pulling numbers back to back is crazy to me. There's so much of this Rumble that did not feel randomized, and it frustrated me significantly.
Yeah, it's real to you, damn it.
The kayfabe of the Rumble did not feel it withheld.
Should we go over the whatever it's called?
Yeah, I was trying to look through if there was any other little bits of story bits. AJ Styles obviously returned. Not any NXT people. Joe Hendry was
AJ Styles with the real theme song.
Real OG, the OG. He's back as a babyface. That's how I read that. AJ Styles make a return.
How happy were you for Joe Hendry?
Not Joe about him getting eliminated in 3 minutes. I was pretty happy. Just like a fucking dork out there. I mean, TNA's Miz. I mean, come on. The fact that they were back to back was hilarious. The surprises really were just Joe Hendry and Speed, the return of AJ Styles, and that was pretty much it. People saying it was one of the best Rumbles ever, and we were talking about how Rumbles are sort of turning into this surprise machine. No real surprises in here, right?
I didn't think you needed them.
And maybe that's the point about the Rumbles. The Rumbles don't need to be surprises, but
not as much anymore.
This is getting a lot of good fanfare from the WWE fan base online, but
again,
it's not like Rumbles of the past.
Jey Uso. I don't. You don't. But people like Jey. I'm done. Get the Yeet Man out of my face. Get the Yeet Man. Thank you.
Do we not have a Yeet soundbite? I would have.
Let's just go to the points. The people are here to see what movie one of us are watching. People are here to see what movie one of us are watching. Okay, that's why people are here.
Yeah. 2 hours. Oh, God damn. Okay. So men's Royal Rumble, same sort of thing. First two, I had Gable and Dragon Lee. Who did you have?
Penta and Rey Mysterio.
You fucking nailed it. And I had Chad Gable at number 1 and 2, and he was number 3. Ah!
It's really weird that my best predictions are the first two of a Rumble. What a weird thing to be good at.
I know this is not part of the rules, but I beg of you, I should at least get half a point off that Chad Gable.
It'll depend what the final score is.
I said he'd be the number 2 and he was 3. I was so close.
I know you were.
I got, because I even got like the idea correct, right?
Yeah.
I was so close. So you got 2 points there. Longest, I said Sheamus. Who did you say?
Sami Zayn.
It was Penta. Penta was in there the longest. 42 minutes and 5 seconds. Even though he was eliminated very quickly by Rey Mysterio. Most eliminations, I said Jacob Fatu. Who did you say?
Drew McIntyre. I don't think Drew McIntyre eliminated a single person.
That is correct. Drew McIntyre eliminated nobody. Jacob Fatu tied with 4 eliminations with Braun Breaker and Roman Reigns. So that is a point for me for sure.
That's crazy. I had 3 shots and I got 0. I thought about watching. I was like, why didn't I pick Roman? I feel like that would have been so easy.
Roman is a good pick. Number 30, I had Drew McIntyre. Who did you have?
I picked Jacob Fatu.
It was Logan Paul.
As we all expected.
And final 4, I had Cena, Punk, Rollins, and Breaker. Who did you have?
I had Cena, Punk, Roman, and Rollins, so I got 2.
Yes, it was Cena, Punk, Jey Uso, and Logan Paul.
What was your number?
My number was 18, which was Finn Balor. Ah, darn.
I had Roman, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a pretty good number.
Cool little one. So at the end of this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 points from
off the men's.
Combined. No, from the 2 combined.
Okay, so
Cena didn't win.
2 combined. I'm gonna count my half point of Chad Gable.
Oh, that's fine.
Combined, I got 6.5. 6.5 points.
Once again, I am the winner, and Ryan is doing the punishment.
Every year we've done this, I've always lost.
This is our 4th year.
I think so.
Because you watch the bad matches, you watch NWA Hard Times. Maybe it's the 3rd year.
I think I did NWA Hard Times the first time, and then maybe
you're right. Yeah.
And then Hard Times again.
Yeah. You are on Hard Times every time this comes around.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Well, I get the punishment. And the punishment this time we decided on was watching a WWE Studios movie. I went through and picked 10 of the worst Rotten Tomatoes scored movies. Now, granted, there's a lot of caveats here. Number 1, we wanted to select movies that featured a WWE wrestler
as a star.
They're not necessarily a star. There's some that have them in here, but I don't think they're the star of the movies. But there are a good number of WWE studio movies that don't have any wrestlers in it at all. So that gets thrown out. We wanted to eliminate scary movies because we are babies.
I'm right.
Represent. Number 3, we did pick, the bottom 10, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's based off Rotten Tomato scores. There is a lot of WWE Studios movies, shockingly, that do not have a single Rotten Tomato scores, mostly because they're like straight to DVD and no one reviewed them. So those were on the list. Yeah, those weren't on the list. I did not add them if they did not have it, because it's not. I don't know, because they don't have a review. They easily could be bad, and they probably are, but they may not be as bad as the ones that did have reviews, Scotty. So I was I was in that pickle of like, who knows? Maybe
there's no way the Marine 5 is good.
Well, maybe like Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania was actually a good movie. But that doesn't have a Rotten Tomato score, so it's like, who knows? And then number 3, we had the bottom 10. But we also, Scotty made the request to add the rest of the 12 rounds movies and the rest of the Marine movies. Marine 1 already made the list at 17%.
Marine 1's great, but
17% on Rotten Tomatoes. So we got the rest of the Marine. and all of the 12 rounds movies on here. So
Oh
we have a list of 17 movies.
So before you do the wheel, I do need to tell you we do have another possible, like, this isn't for our show because we're gonna do the movies for here on out. But I need to shout out again my friend Dylan, who's going to do this as a punishment for his shows. He said whoever has to watch season 3 of Total Divas, and I was like, oh my god, I'd kill myself.
That's so much. That's so many hours of television.
Yeah, well, that's a different punishment for a different show. We do our live stream, so we could never do it. But I was like, that's awful. Like,
Yes.
that's a true punishment. All right, do you have the wheel? Can we get the wheel up?
Yes, we can. And the wheel is here.
Oh boy, here we go. Wait a minute. What am I
zooming in? Does zooming in do anything? No, it does not. It actively does nothing.
Wait a minute. I really want you. We put countdown on here too. Shouts out.
Yeah, I can give you the full list.
What am I hoping for? What am I
don't
hoping for you to watch here? I think Knucklehead's up there.
Yeah, so we have 12 rounds, 12 rounds 2, 12 rounds 3. Armed Response. I believe that was Armed Response is the Wesley Snipes one.
Off of here, you bastard.
Blood Brother, Buddy Games, Countdown, Knucklehead. Countdown was actually a request from you, by the way. Countdown, that was the Dolph Ziggler.
Oh, it's awful. All-time terrible film.
Knucklehead, Legendary on Tubi. The Condemned, The Marine, Marine 2, Marine 3, Marine 4, Marine 5, Marine 6, and The Reunion. That is our list of 17 movies.
I should have requested The Chaperone because that movie, that's a Triple H being like a dad.
Yes, that was on here for a while. That eventually got eliminated, but that was on this list for a while.
I don't know what Blood Brother is. I don't know what Armed Response.
Blood Brother is a movie. Armed Response is, I believe, the Wesley Snipes movie. Blood Brother, I believe, stars R-Truth in it. I think it's like a drama.
Okay.
So I think it's like a drama gang.
Well, I'm locked in. Let's see what your fate is. I'm sorry that you have to do this, but
I appreciate that. So this will be live streamed at some point. I don't know exactly when. We'll figure it out, but it'll be posted
Marine 2,
on our social medias of when I'm going to be doing this. So it'll be a watch along that you can all enjoy. So here we go. Click the spin. Here we go. Spinning. It's happening.
Spin that wheel.
Oh God, it's gonna be a Marine.
Yes!
And the winner is the Marine 5. Which one is the Marine
Battleground?
5? Is it Battleground?
Holy shit. Heath Slater's in this movie.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Bo Dallas is too.
All right, here we go. The Marine 5. Let's look this up. Marine 5 Battleground, starring The Miz, Maurice. Oh, crap. This is the ensemble one. Bo Dallas, Curtis Axel, Naomi, Heath Slater. Oh, boy, Scotty. This looks bad. Yes, that's the movie that I will be live streaming and I'll watch along at some point later this month, I guess. That makes sense to do it in February at some point. Holy crap, that looks bad. Came out March 28th, 2017. 88 minutes. Couldn't even make it to 90. Anyone else in here that's fun? No. Can we get hold on. Let me go to IMDb. I can get a log line for the folks at home. While working as an EMT back stateside, Jake Carter, after responding to a distress call, the sentences don't really work together. While working as an EMT back stateside, Jake Carter, after responding to a distress call, finds himself caught up protecting a person of interest from a biker gang ruthlessly hunting them down. That sentence doesn't make any sense to me. It's a bad sentence. But yeah, we will discuss this and watch this live.
This movie has a 47% popcorn meter on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, so it does have a rating.
100 plus reviews.
That's a positive. Oh, that's the popcorn meter. That's not the review. That's not the tomato meter.
But it's the fact that fans went out of their way to do it.
People like this movie, seemingly. So maybe it's not as bad, Scotty.
Audience member, the movie was just terrible.
Okay, perfect. So we'll watch Marine 5 Battleground at some point. I'll let you all know when that happens. I'll probably announce that date firmly on Ring Post Radio and we'll put it on social media.
There's one more comment.
Uh-huh.
Miz's acting is worse than his wrestling. Wish I can get back that time of my life.
And I'm saying that about the wrestling. Oh boy, that's awful.
You're gonna I'm so happy you got a Marine.
Yeah, you were ecstatic. You loved it.
You didn't get a good Marine, which arguably there isn't any. I think the first one's good. The first one's enjoyable. I don't think these are. These are going to be like the ultimate. Oh, congrats, man!
I appreciate it. I'm.
Thank you for sucking at this game every year.
I don't even know how I'm going to watch it. I got to figure out how to watch that first.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. Anyways,
not streaming on Netflix.
It could be on Tubi for all I know. I'll figure that out. I'll figure that out in a moment.
Could be on Tubi.
Other bits that we had to talk about. I mean, we're already over 2 hours
on YouTube.
That's helpful. That's helpful. But via premium subscription, I might have to pay for this movie.
It's free with ads on YouTube.
Oh, perfect. Oh, even better. Free with ads on YouTube. Oh, okay, that works.
Too.
Okay, we'll get into that more at a later date. Other bits of the show before we go. We just had some quick previews of various things. New Japan has a Road 2 shows this week. There were 2 matches that look interesting to me. Tomorrow on Monday, there's a New Japan World TV title match between El Phantasmo and Jeff Cobb. Scotty's pulling something up. I thought that was Daniel Bryan. And Curtis Axel. Scotty cannot wait to watch.
That's not Curtis Axel.
What did I say? Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas. Tomorrow, Monday, New Japan World TV title match, El Phantasmo versus Jeff Cobb. Tuesday, there's an IWGP Junior title match between
there sure is.
between El Desperado and
Kosei Fujita.
Kosei Fujita. So that is a big time match in my opinion. I don't believe there's any other title matches on the rest of this tour up until New Beginning in Osaka next week. But we'll talk about that more a little bit next week. Dragon Gate also has a Korakuen Hall show, big time Korakuen Hall show. English commentary is provided on this show. Card overall, as a lot of multi-man tag matches announced. There's a singles match with Don Fuji versus Ishin and Mochizuki Jr. versus Daiki Yanaguchi. But I think the big takeaway for me is the main event, which is a special 6-man tag team match. Ben K, Strong Machine J, and Madoka Kakuta versus Yamato, Shun Skywalker, and Kota Minoura. That is a pretty sexy main event, especially coming off of their last big show in January.
Yeah, when I read Hip Hop Kakuta, I get excited.
Well, yeah, he's not the one that gets me excited for the match. But,
everything else is exciting. Looks like a fun show. Looks like a really good show, actually.
And then the only other thing we were planning on talking about a little bit here was Stardom Supreme fight. I watched half of the main event before we started the show. I didn't finish it, but Scott, do you have any quick thoughts? I know you'll go more in depth on your platforms later, but do you have any quick thoughts on Stardom Supreme fight?
The best World of Stardom title match since 2023.
You know, it doesn't surprise me for 2024. But
it's not like this. It's not like this big, massive comment. However, it's not like late 2023 either. It would be early 2023 to prove a point. I already reviewed this, actually. I did a quick video last night after I watched it because it moved me. I'm not moved much anymore by most things, folks. It takes a lot to get me to be like, oh my God, I am inspired. I got to record about this. But this got me. Sold out Korakuen to the rafters, mind you. They sold standing room tickets in the balconies. No one does that anymore. Any company. This was a very unique situation to show how hot Stardom is in Japan right now. And they put a world title match in the main event, and it just worked. This is the best Suzuki has looked since maybe 2022.
Yeah.
Probably 2023 because I liked a lot of her 2023. But this was as close to the Suzuki that got a lot of people saying this is the future, which was very meaningful to me. And I don't want to say it yet. I already said it elsewhere, so it's fine. I get to actually say it. But Saikon Tani might be figuring this out, which is she's very popular, so it doesn't really matter if she figures it out or not. But I think she is.
Again, I watched half of the main event, but you know what? I figured it out about what she is and why I think she's a little bit over.
A little bit,
and maybe chicken egg situation, because I think looking at her made me think of this one person, but she came before this other person. But they're both doing very similar things. I think that's a little bit of why it's over.
Ozawa.
She feels like Ozawa.
Yeah, they are very similar.
And I think that is to a certain extent because it's working in Noah. He is the most over thing in Noah right now. And she is doing something very similar.
There's Stardom, a real comparison there.
And Stardom is legitimately selling tickets, like you just said. So that's working. That's looking good for Japan. Yeah. That's what's working in Japan right now.
Wild thing to be working in Japan, by the way. Yeah, it's great to see. She's over. That's over. They're going right back to Tam though. So, but I enjoy one day.
Who is Noah's Tam? Because it's not Kaito. Kaito does not have the political pull that Tam Nakano has.
Kano, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has that pull.
Yeah, I guess
Tim's a different beast,
Not really Marufuji.
No, Shiozaki we know doesn't have that pull.
Go Shiozaki feels right, but he
had to make his own show.
He has a negative pull.
Yeah, I don't think Noah has that.
Yeah. Which
Tim's
is good.
Very popular.
Look, I think that's good for Ozawa. I'll tell you that much.
Oh, Jesus. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Because I don't them all. Anyways.
There's also the
Artist the next world title challenger. That was my joke.
Yeah. There's also the Artist of Stardom title.
That was also
Artist of Stardom title match here.
Neo Genesis, great. The Cosmic Angel trio, very good. Very good match. Yeah, I only watched half the show because it started during the Rumble. And I was like, okay, well, I got to watch the I don't know what to do here. So I just watched the second half. I'll go back and watch the first half. But I saw the two things I needed. Yeah, if you want to hear a full 20-minute review for the main event, youtube.com/@ScottEWrestling. It's up there. I was like, well, I don't talk about this till Friday. I know we might talk about it on this show, but I was like, oh, we don't have a lot of time. So put that 20 minutes together, worth your time. I think the match and the video that I made. So yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got.
What was your match of the week?
My match of the week was John Cena versus AJ Styles from the 2017 Royal Rumble.
Wow.
Wow. It was unbelievably great.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me angry at Dave's ratings. Dave gave that 4 3/4, right?
Yeah.
That match is more 5 stars than the majority of 5 stars he gives out today. If not all of them.
I told you to skip it, and I think most people would understand. He gave, what did he give on Dynamite on Wednesday? Will Ospreay versus Brian Cage as the opener, 4 1/4 stars. And I think I went like
absurd.
I think I went 3 1/4. I was like, Dave, I saw that. I was like, what? Cage match has this as 6.86. I was like, Dave, what?
Gunther and Jey Uso 4.5.
I know.
He said that match was a 1/4 less star than the John Cena AJ Styles classic from the Royal Rumble.
The deflation is out of
disgusting. I can't even listen. I have been someone that's like, I don't really care about Dave's rating. It's whatever. No, I'm taking a stand right here, right now, Ryan. I'm done. I'm finished with the inflation. Kyle Fletcher breathes and he gets 5 stars now. But John Cena and AJ Styles do what they did, and they only have 4 1/4.
Well, because
it would be like 5.5 now.
2017 was still not the deflation era. That was still like he was still conscientious
It
of
was
things.
right on the back of the Okada Omega 6-star rating.
Mm-hmm.
But still, what is a 5-star match anymore?
Well, it became a thing of like Dave getting so much pushback of like, it's a 5-star scale. It's 6 stars, 7 stars. You know, you're breaking the scale, and him being like, there was never a scale. 6. It's always.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, that's absurd.
What happened? I think what happened is Dave's conclusion to that is, if it is properly a scale of 6 and 7 and can go as high as that, then I need to be more generous and give more matches 5s and 5.5s and 6s because the scale goes that high. Yeah, I agree. He's wrong. I think he broke it, and it did, and now he's like fucked. I think.
Like, Lord knows I get mad about the Joshi ones as is.
Sure.
But the Gunther Jey Uso rating the other day, I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, that also then plays additionally into him saying that WWE is as hot as it's ever been, which to him also tells him that the wrestling is good, and so the
crowd was phenomenal. Like, there's I will not allow it. That match was so good, and Jey Uso versus Gunther was not so good. Whatever. But yeah, that was my match of the week. And my plugs, like I said, youtube.com/@ScottyWrestling. There's a beginner's guide to stardom up there if you are looking to get into stardom. A lot of nice notes about that one, which I appreciate from folks. My Joshi podcast is also over on there. And like I said, if you want to hear a review for Saya versus Suzu right off the bat, I got that for you as well. I got something big on Friday coming out, which is kind of Dave related in a way. Out of more anger.
You're interviewing Dave Meltzer and yelling at him for 30 minutes?
Yeah, hella. That'd be good content. No. I still like Dave. I still appreciate Dave.
Yeah.
God, you're pissing me off lately. But yeah, that's coming out on Friday. Yeah, I don't think I can announce it because I don't really know how we're doing it. But is
it written or audio?
It's written. I don't write anything anymore, so that's shocking. Yeah, that's it. Bye.
Interesting.
What's your match of the week, buddy?
Speaking of Dave ratings, mine is from January 4th, 2000. It was Genichiro Tenryu versus Kensuke Sasaki for IWGP Heavyweight Title match. This was 15 minutes of pure action, beef, slapping, power bomb, nailing. I went 4.5 stars on this match, Scotty. It's on New Japan World. Great match. Dave at the time gave it 3 stars. I'm like, Dave, this is a 4.5. This is a legitimately great match. I can understand 4, right? 3.
You ever look at Dave's old rating? Oh, that reminds me. I watched Manami Toyota versus Kyoko Inoue 60 minutes match that he gave 5+ stars or something.
Mm-hmm.
No. No.
Yeah, I think about it like sometimes because it's like, you know,
it's a match that's highly regarded by a lot of people, but no.
Yeah, there's also like the context of which the match happened in, right? Like,
yes, of course.
I talk about this on a future guest spot I did, which I'll talk about that when that gets closer to its release date. But talk about like you parachute in for one match and you miss out the context of the rest of the show. And so much of like the rest of the show bleeds into what a main event could be. Right.
Yeah.
So like maybe that's part of it for any of these matches. Like the show was boring. And so the main event was boring, but like when you just look at it in isolation, like it's so different. But yeah, it's wild. It is wild just seeing like people's ratings back in the day, especially also in the context of just like wrestling in the year 2000 or wrestling in the year 19 whatever, you know, like
his rating inflation
is
bananas. It's like
bananas.
Legitimately insane to look at because like you'll see an all-time like classic for yourself, like you'll be, this match is amazing. It's like it got 3 3/4 or for the example of what you just said, 3.
Yeah, it's a flat 3, a gentleman's 3.
He gives 3 to like bad matches now.
Yeah.
right? Like that's like his bottom.
And I also get it because like 3 is now like the bottom to a certain extent because it's like the quality of wrestling has like increased overall comparative to the 90s or even the 80s, right?
Sure.
Especially like all show, right? Like
especially in America.
Yeah, especially in America. So I sort of get it there, but at the same time, it's just like then you should adjust your scale accordingly. It shouldn't be like, oh, now all of these shows are 3. It should be like, okay, well now let's adjust this down.
That is a conversation that is had like all the time.
That sounds like a really good Ring Post Radio Quarterly question.
It
honestly.
does. It does.
I can write that down.
We might have to just talk about it. But it's just like there is, at least in Joshi circles, it's very recognized that he has not inflated that. Like he still compares everything to All Japan Women's.
Yeah.
But for everything else, which
is frustrating because it feels like you should almost compare it to other Joshi wrestling or even Japanese wrestling to today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the most fascinating part of his rating scale because like everything else is not seen on that. Because like people will bring up like Kobashi and Masao got this right 4 3/4 and Kyle Fletcher and whoever the fuck got 5 or whatever, right?
Yeah,
it's usually just Ospreay, so I guess it doesn't matter. But my point is like it is fascinating to see that, and it's like, man, you gotta be consistent here. But at the end of the day, it's just one guy's opinion, so really cares.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more. This seems like a good question for Ring Post Radio.
Clearly, I do. By the way, who really cares?
We'll talk about more. Maybe we'll say that
yelling about it over.
We'll save that question for the next quarter for Ring Post Radio Quarterly on patreon.com/countupod. You can subscribe $5 tier. You can get so much content there. You get the first episode of Hustle Loyalty Retrospect that has already come out. You can get the whole first season of The Ballot from last year. You have a bunch of other audio and video content there available for you on the $5 tier. Again, patreon.com/countoutpod. You can follow Countout wherever you get social media. You can subscribe to podcasts wherever you get podcasts. And please rate, review, subscribe, do all those sort of things. It greatly helps us out. Subscribe to the Countout Wrestling YouTube channel. I presume probably on there, I'll have to look into like YouTube stuff, but like probably on YouTube is where I'll do the movie live stream watch along thing. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you ring the bell or whatever to make sure you get those notifications when they pop up. But I'll figure out a date and I'll let you all know, hopefully next week on Ring Post Radio when that's taking place. I believe that is it from me and from Scotty here on Ring Post Radio. So until next week, where we're going to talk about different things, those matches that we previewed. All Japan has a show that we're going to maybe talk about. New Japan and New Beginning Osaka. Noah has a big time show. So we had a Grand Slam in Australia. So next week we'll have a lot more stuff to talk about for sure. But until next week, folks, we will talk to you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.